Ladies and gentlemen, we're live on this Monday edition, already the 6th day of January 2014. You know, about a month ago, Fox News reported that starting in January and running for about 4 months, waves of radioactive debris only took months for the ocean currents to make it across the Pacific Ocean from Japan to the west coast of the U.S. and the rest of North America. Northern Mexico, and, of course, all the way up Canada to Alaska. The Arctic's been particularly heavy hit. But Fox News reported that a large wave of radioactive debris would be hitting in early 2014. And then they asked the ridiculous question, is it safe? Well, starting last week, one of our reporters, Darren McBreen, began working on a report with the fact that locals with Geiger counters were showing 5 to 7 to 10 times what is the normal level of background radiation with over-the-counter detectors. We have purchased several of them. They cost about $700 a piece. And we're also purchasing right now a professional-grade one that costs several thousand. But the point is that the local government went and tested and said, indeed, it's at least 5 times normal levels. We don't know if that's safe. Well, they know full well. Long term, if you live in that area, it is not safe. And when you watch the YouTube videos of this, it starts at about 15, goes up to 150. There on the beach in San Francisco. So this is the type of issue. I am sending my reporters, several reporters, camera people, to California tomorrow. And they will be reporting from California. Then they're going to travel to Oregon. And then they're going to travel to Washington State into next week, doing the mainstream media and government's job with the Geiger counters. And I suggest citizens that live on the West Coast, you should go out there with Geiger counters yourself and check your area and then send us reports at showtips@infowars.com of where you find radiation levels, a screenshot of a Google map, and we will send our reporters there to double verify that. But again, I want to repeat this to everybody. It's here. We've been getting hit by radiation for 2+ years from Fukushima, but this is the big one. It's taken 2+ years for this debris field from the Fukushima area where the tsunami came in and then the reactors exploded and then a lot of that went out to sea. It's taken 2+ years for that to get here. Turns out 3 months after the disaster, the Food and Drug Administration, along with the EPA, tested yellowfin tuna caught off San Diego and found 3 to 5 times the normal, what they consider to be safe levels of background radiation in the tuna. They decided for a full year not to tell the public. So the big issue here is that this is a Chernobyl-level event, and just like in Japan, they're telling everyone that everything's safe. Now, obviously, the radiation levels are much lower than they are in and around Fukushima, and I would feel comfortable being in and around that radiation area for weeks, if not months, because I've had physicists, nuclear physicists on, radiation experts, Dr. Busby, Dr. Bob Bowman, the list goes on and on. It's limited exposure short term is not an issue. It is the long-term exposure of people that live there on the West Coast. Now, being near Fukushima, hours is horribly bad for you if you're actually over within a few miles, like the schools are in that area. The reason I'm not going is I have to go to my uncle's funeral Wednesday, but I am intending, as this develops, in the next few weeks to go to the West Coast myself. So you can put that in your bank account and guarantee it. I'm going to be going out to California as the radiation wave intensifies. This is only the beginning. We're going to be covering incredibly important economic news, military news, political news, Obamacare news. But as you know, we began covering in the last month a Fox News report. It's also in the Tokyo Times. It's in the Japanese newspapers. That it took a couple months for the main currents to go across the Pacific Ocean. They flow from Japan, just like the winds, towards North America, Mexico, the United States, Canada, up into Alaska. And it was reported in local news, San Francisco Chronicle, you name it, that in the first few months after Fukushima, via the air, radiation levels in some cases were 10 times normal levels, usually 3 or 4 times. They picked up a whole bunch of different radioactive isotopes. The FDA responded by raising, on a limited basis, what they said was safe and did not tell people not to drink milk produced in California for a few months, because those cows are big bioaccumulators, just like big fish bioaccumulate mercury and other toxins. And if there's been contamination in the ocean, you don't want to eat them for a while. Same thing with cows. You don't want to drink their milk or eat their flesh if they're eating off grass that's had fallout on it. And when my wife was growing up as a daughter of a diplomat in Europe, when Chernobyl happened, for 6 months, they didn't drink the milk. They had to ship in powdered milk. They didn't eat the vegetables. They had to ship it in, and that was Europe-wide. Eastern Europe, Western Europe, Southern Europe. She was in Italy at that time for Chernobyl. And this is much bigger than Chernobyl, that the UN estimates killed 1 million people since 1986 from thyroid cancers and other tumors directly associated with the Chernobyl disaster in the Ukraine. Now, that said, here's Fox News from November 29th. So this is now a month and a half ago. Is it safe? Radioactive Japanese wave nears the United States. In the wake of the deadly tsunami that hit Japan in 2011 and severely damaged nuclear reactor, Japanese officials say the levels of radiation are safe for everyone. That's proven to be a fraud outside the reactor area itself. But as radioactive water from the plant nears the west coast of North America, the water is expected to hit in 2014. Can we be sure it's safe? I don't know. Putting a rope around your neck and dropping a chair from under your feet, is that safe? Shooting yourself in the head, is that safe? Playing in traffic, is that safe? I mean, this is smoking 4 packs of cigarettes a day, is that safe? Having unprotected sex with 500 people a year, is that safe? I don't know, is it safe? I love how they always just push this. Now, why am I getting into this? You have all that debris that's starting to make it over here that took 2 years to go across. It doesn't move as fast as the currents. It's been reaching the coastline now in the last few weeks. You've got the water that continues in the ongoing meltdowns as they pump seawater into it on the edge of the coast. It runs back into the ocean. And then it comes right across and circulates around in circles from northern Mexico all the way up to Alaska. Now, the starfish are dying up and down the coast en masse. I've never seen this before. They're actually rotting and just desiccating in front of everyone. The seals are dying. The dolphins, the whales are dying in record numbers because whales are bioaccumulating. They're eating a lot of fish, or they're eating a lot of krill, a lot of plankton, and they are like sponges, like filters. They're picking it all up, and we have all those reports. And just like and I'm getting to the big story here in a moment, the radiation's 500 times what it should be. That's confirmed in California right now, in San Francisco. That's the top story on drudgereport.com on the right-hand side. We'll put that on screen and click that story. And then you notice that under it, Drudge links to the local San Francisco newspaper that we're reporting from. And they talked to the state, and the state's gone out and tested it and found exactly what citizen Geiger counters, hundreds of these videos have been uploaded the last week, as people all over California go out with $500, $600, $700 Geiger counters, and they all pick up. The normal background level is 14 on these devices, and it's up at 150. You start walking towards the beach in San Francisco, and it's at 30, it builds up to 40, and then it goes up to 150. Now, again, the issue is we saw the deadly dust. We saw them lie and say the tower dust and the collapsed towers was safe. We saw them come out and say Agent Orange wasn't bad for people when they knew what it had done in tests in and around Anniston, Alabama, to the population that lived around the Monsanto plant. They knew the entire time exactly what this would result in. They understood that. Now, it's the same thing on every front. Just like until 1990, they would not let U.S. troops use depleted uranium in any type of combat or even in any type of drills or firing range, proving ground testing, because it ignites going down the barrel, whether it's fired out of a Vulcan cannon in an A-10 Warthog, or whether it is fired out of a 50 caliber Barrett, or whether it's fired out of a .308 sniper rifle. It ignites going down the barrel, and then you breathe a large dose of the radioactive uranium that then at point-blank range goes inside your cells and gives you cancer, destroys your kidneys, destroys your lungs, destroys your liver, destroys your skin, destroys your testicles, destroys your ovaries. This is what our troops are going through. U.S. military, last time I checked, has 5 times the birth defects now from the last 2 Gulf Wars. Fallujah has 16 times the world average for birth defects where DU was used. And this goes to show the globalists don't care, and they're not going to warn you about what's happening. They are not going to tell you about what is unfolding. They are not going to tell you what's happening on the West Coast. Back when this happened 2.5 years ago, back in 2011, that's 3 years ago, time flies, they picked up with the state testing stuff in Vermont and in places on the East Coast, much higher levels of radiation in the milk, in the lettuce, in the spinach, things that grow on the surface with the fallout. So we know this is going on. And when you read the article out of the Half Moon Bay Review local paper, just outside San Francisco, they name and talk to the state officials who say, yes, we did find what the other people posting YouTube videos of their Geiger counters found. And they go on to say, although the radiation level was clearly higher 5 times than is typical, Peterson emphasized that it was still not unsafe for humans. A person would need to be exposed to 100 micro REMs of radiation for 50,000 hours before it surpassed safety guidelines by the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, he explained. Well, here's the deal. They've already raised the radiation level, so that's not true. You do not want to spend more than a few weeks around this, I can tell you right now. And if these levels do not subside after a few weeks, according to all the nuclear physicists I've talked to, I want to get Dr. Busby back on. He's a nuclear and chemical physicist as soon as you can, guys. That's it. We can't get Dr. Bob Bowman on, former head of Star Wars. He died last year. But I want to get some physicists on to break this down so you can hear it from them. But it goes on to say that county health officials went out and tested it and did find the same numbers that the YouTube video shows. So that's confirmed. That's confirmed, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sending my reporters out there. But it doesn't matter. West Coast officials, Obama, don't worry about radiation risk in U.S. CNN says everything is fine. Just like they said with the dust on 9/11, it turns out the head of the EPA was told, Christina Todd Whitman, they were told, that was the head of the EPA then, right? Check that for me. I'm going from memory. Just look, EPA told a lie about tower air, or World Trade Center collapse air, or World Trade Center dust, and it'll pull up the actual article from the time. The point is that all of this is happening, all of this is going on, and we have the 2 reports at Infowars.com that are taking this local story that the mainstream national media wouldn't cover. We've put it out nationwide at PrisonPlanet.com and Infowars.com, and now Drudge has pushed it out, and this will force the media, not just here but worldwide, to cover it. I predict within a week, you're going to see reporters out there from Dinosaur Media crawling the beaches, finding areas with low radiation under orders and telling you that it's safe. Yes, it was EPA head Christina Todd Whitman told reporters at Ground Zero, we've not seen any reason or readings that have indicated a health hazard. But CBS News confirms that they lied. There's the headline. We're told to lie about it. And they're lying to you right now about the radiation. Bottom line, it's deadly. You stay a couple years in this, you're going to die of cancer young. Undoubtedly increased radiation in the fish and other seafood, and increased radiation in crops is from fallout, and increased radiation hitting the beaches is from Fukushima. It's right on time for all of this to arrive. But we still put a question mark on it. Here's another article on Infowars.com. Health officials, no concern, that's the quote, over 500% increase in radiation levels off California beach. By the way, folks, some of the readings are even higher than 500 times. 500 times. Now, again, that is still nothing like what you'd have near Fukushima or near Chernobyl. But long-term exposure from all the physicists that we've talked to, all the medical doctors, all the scientists, all the radiologists, this is uber bad for you. And we have a lot of affiliates out in California, a lot of great people out there. When I come out there in a few weeks, I mean, I guess I'm just going to do it. I should probably visit Michael Zwirling and all the great folks out there with 2 affiliates we have in Santa Cruz to test what's going on out there. Now, these waves can come in and then get diluted and the level can go down. But, I mean, if this continues, here's the big crime, because so many things are going through my head right now. They're not telling the public to take potassium iodine. They're not telling them to take TheraSafe. They're not telling them to take Survival Shield. They're not even telling people to go out and get the proper Himalayan and gourmet sea salts. Not all of them have it, that have the naturally occurring iodine. Because if you don't have that, not just in your thyroid, but in your glands, period, you will absorb this stuff like a sponge. That's what the thyroid does, is it will grab radioactive isotopes, the radioactive iodine, and it will absorb it along with other toxins like fluoride, borine, the halogen family, into your thyroid. Why do you think last week the federal government ordered an additional 14 million dosages? And when we called them and said, is that for the American people or for the feds, they hung up on us. Like, we should flash back and repost that article and video that Anthony Gucciardi did with Paul Watson last week. This makes me so angry that they're not telling people that they need to protect themselves. The government is hardening their facilities nationwide, hundreds of millions of dollars for 2 facilities, 2 Social Security facilities. I have more articles here in my stack today. The Federal Reserve is hiring lots of new armed police officers. The private Federal Reserve's arming more armed guards, record levels. I mean, government, the bankers, all of them. Goldman Sachs, that came out 2 years ago, was hiring armed guards and getting concealed carry permits in New York. Something you can only get if you're an insider. They all get to have guns, and they told Bloomberg News, we have these guns to protect ourselves from the public with what's coming. When they take all your pension funds, all your bank accounts, at least a large piece of it, in a bail-in, and give it to offshore banks. What do you think old bozo Kerr is? He's not a bozo. He's a genius with the globalist, so I shouldn't call him a bozo. It is a ruled, Supreme Court certified foreign tax to corporations. It's been ruled a tax that you pay to offshore banks that own the insurance companies. They're already doing it. They're already directly taxing you. That's the dream of globalism, the dream of the SDRs, the dream of the $100 trillion a decade at the Davos Forum. Search. Davos wants $100 trillion in new credit every decade. And then they list the credit as carbon taxes and bail-ins right out of your bank accounts, global VATs, global Tobin taxes. They are, when the cashless society goes in, folks, they are going to hammer us to hell. And they're such crazy gangsters, bravada, chutzpah, crazy people, that they don't even care if their own kids are breathing radiation. I guess they do. They're all getting the ThyroSafe that I wouldn't take long term. We sell it. We have it at InfoWarsStore.com. And again, I'm a free market guy. I've got stuff for my family. I'm doing research to protect myself. I know this wave of radiation's coming. How do I fund our InfoWars operation while helping people? We sell the nascent iodine. We sell the high-quality stuff, but we've also got the stuff the government's buying and hoarding because we understand it's important. I take the iodine. My children take the iodine to protect ourselves and for good health. But the government won't tell the public to do it while they buy it and gobble it. But you don't get a 500% increase. And they're saying, we don't know if it's bad for you. We don't know if it's an issue. And then the health department is like, you know, you'd have to have 50,000 hours in this radiation for it to have any problems. Well, the issue is that if it continues to pile up and continues to come in, it won't just go down, it will go up. It won't stay the same. So this is definitely something to watch, and it should be the top news story in the United States. That the state health department and the local health departments are quoted in here saying, yes, the radiation is up, but we don't know if it's bad for you, and we don't know where it comes from. And then, of course, we have them saying DU isn't bad for you. And we have them saying the dust at the World Trade Center isn't bad for you. And we have, it's back there on McBreen's desk. Will somebody bring me the retro candy cigarettes that say just like Daddy's that they actually sold in the 50s and 60s? You know, Daddy smoked cigarettes, and the doctor on the Camel ad and the Kent ads would say, you know, you're having a sore throat, got a cough, smoke a Camel. I mean, we don't know if cigarettes are bad for you. In fact, why they had studies saying cigarettes were good for you. And the same tobacco labs come out now and say aspartame isn't bad for you. They tell you GMO isn't bad for you. I mean, these people are a pack of liars. And then they tell you vitamins, though, are bad for you. Vitamins and minerals, those are bad. Aspartame, GMO, silicone in the McNuggets, melamine from China, the FDA came out a few years ago and said, you know, it's not bad. Here it is right here. Candy cigarettes, just like Daddy. If you're watching us on prisonplanet.tv or InfoWarsNews.com, you can see those. Or just search candy cigarettes for kids, just like Dad. Refreshing orange flavor, candy cigarettes. And now they put the kids on Ritalin and Adderall and all the different Prozac drugs. Oh, you got in a fist fight when you were 12 with a bully. We're going to put you on drugs, or we're going to put you in jail. Oh, you got caught smoking cigarettes in the boys' bathroom. We're going to put you on drugs. Oh, you've been late to class. We're going to put you on drugs. See, it's the same deal, preying on our children. So I'm the conspiracy theorist. Cigarettes are bad for your lungs. Alcohol, when it's abused, is bad for your liver. Jumping off cliffs without a parachute is bad for your bones. And radiation and all the different isotopes. We've got to go back to a couple of years ago when Fukushima first happened, and there was that spike at first that went back down, thank God, because it was in the air, where there was some times where it was 100 times what they called safe level, so they just raised the level. There were all different, just dozens and dozens of different isotopes that universities, Berkeley picked them up. The universities in Southern California picked them up, not just Northern California, not just the Bay Area. I mean, we need to go back over all that news. I want nothing but radiation coverage on the nightly news tonight. I want to go back and show people what happened when Fukushima took place 3 years ago, back in 2011. And then I want to walk through all the other cases where they lie to you to illustrate this to people. This is a big deal. And it shows what they're going to do with the leaking reactors all over the U.S., 91% leaking. On record, look it up. 90+% of reactors leaking. What are they going to do? 20 years ago, they started letting troops, or 25 years ago, use DU, but in limited capacity wearing breathing apparatus. But you'd still get it on your skin and stuff. Very deadly. Now it's sit on top of the ammo cans that are radiating you. Use them at regular military shooting ranges. Don't clean anything up. All this stuff's fine. Throw 50 caliber DU in, you know, an ammo can on the back of the Navy SEAL. These guys get out without even a bandana over their nose and shoot this stuff. On record, on television. And they say, oh, the crew chief gave us a radiation detector. A radiation badge that you wear around x-rays and stuff doesn't pick up the type of radiation that's in a DU shell. I've had Dr. Doug Rocky, the physicist, the head of the Pentagon DU program from 96 on, who was part of the teams in 91 cleaning up the highway of death. Almost his whole team has died. He's had more than 40 surgeries last time I checked from DU. By the way, I don't even know if he's well enough. He's at the VA in Virginia last year when we talked to him. I know I haven't got word of him passing or anything. He's an incredibly tough guy. The name Rocky certainly sticks with the man. The name fits the individual. But let's see if Dr. Rocky, Vietnam veteran, combat veteran, you name it, just amazing people like that, who almost his whole team has died from being around it with the breathing apparatus and the suits from testing and studying DU. And the Pentagon's own report said, we cannot use this, it's too deadly. And the higher-ups said, we don't care, do it. Just like I had an article yesterday out of the Wall Street Journal where they waived rules on the new fighter jets and drones and missiles to buy the components from China with back doors. Totally illegal, true national security crisis, true threat, not the fake al-Qaeda threat, treason. Our weapons components shouldn't even be made overseas. If we're going to have a wartime economy, guns and butter, then we might as well have it here. I mean, I'm against the military-industrial complex economy, but let me tell you, we're going to have it. It needs to be here. If we're going to have the federal government having control of half the economy, you better by law give those contracts to local small businesses. Of course, they violate law and don't. They give them to multinationals. Because the name of the game is consolidate power while you take over and make your political enemies absolutely poor so they can't resist and have a you-know-what to do what in. So this is the bottom line. This is how we're being conquered. I want to hear from people in northern Mexico on the West Coast, in Baja. I want to hear from people in California, Oregon, Washington State, Utah, Nevada. It's all coming in. But if you're on the coast of the West Coast, what has stopped you, I'm just asking, from buying a $500, $600, $700 radiation detector and going out and testing? Because they're doing it up and down the coast, and they're getting higher levels from the Central Coast up, the Bay Area up. And I'm sending my reporters into San Francisco, the epicenter of this, and up the coast, and they're going to take readings every 10 miles all the way. This is a serious mission they're on. They're not going to be stopping and screwing around. They're going to be focusing, working 15 hours a day to chronicle and mark out on a digital map on a laptop the radiation levels, and they're going to be posting that daily at Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. Adon Salazar is going to write the articles and create the map, doing what the government and the mainstream media won't do. By the way, the government knows about the radiation increases. They've told the universities for 3 years to shut up. That's come out in the news. That's why they're buying iodine. That's why they're taking it. But we're going to do the job of the government and the dinosaur whore media. We're going to go from San Francisco all the way north up to Seattle to the Canadian border. And we're going to mark that entire coastline up Highway 1 all the way up. And they're going to be doing live Skype video reports on the radio show from the coast. They're going to be filing YouTube reports on the ground, right to PrisonPlanet.tv. And we're going to draw attention to this so that there can be a national debate about it. 2 days after 9/11, when they came out and said the air was safe to breathe, at first, Sebelius had said, don't be there, it's deadly, asbestos, pulverized glass, concrete, lead, mercury, arsenic, it's deadly, don't go unless you have a breathing apparatus. Then they came out and said, oh, no, it's perfectly safe. I said, don't give money to the Red Cross United Way, who on record keep most of the money and give it to anti-gun groups, on record, and open border groups. Don't give money to who the mainstream media tells you to give money. It's all a criminal operation, in my view, and the evidence is there. Red Cross got actually caught criminally keeping most of the donations from Oklahoma City. I said, give it to local churches. Here they are, and listed local churches that were taking breathing apparatuses, even if it was a paint mask. And I actually got criticized at the time. People said, how dare you say don't give money? Later it came out it was all a fraud. It's always a fraud. I told you don't give money to Bill Clinton's charity. Half the money goes to pay for his private jets around the world. You think you're giving money to little black kids? You're giving it to the gangster Bill Clinton, the cokehead, criminal, scumbag, rapist. You didn't know he was a cokehead, scumbag, racist? They put crack pipes on the Christmas tree and pictures of Lenin, Stalin, and Mao. These are deranged defilers of everything good. They do it because they like it. And I told you then the dust is deadly. And I've been there with the firefighters and police and met them when they're coughing up blood in the green room who are dead now. I know police, firefighters, and military medics who went in there and they didn't have any gas mask for them. They said, don't worry about it, who worked for days and had nosebleeds and coughed up blood as they literally killed themselves to try to save people. And the pig government could have shipped in all the gas mask and apparatus they needed, but they didn't want to do that because they wanted to open Wall Street and open the schools and open the businesses. Now you've got all these famous people that live down there who are dying of lung cancer and dying of brain tumors, huge cancer spikes in and around that area. I want to hear from Californians. I've heard from a minority of Californians that go, hey, man, don't try to, destroy California. Well, you've got major physicists coming out and saying basically that Japan will be unlivable if this thing continues to melt down. And the issue is we need to have an international crisis debate about how to really try to fix and mitigate Fukushima, not have the Japanese mafia hire below minimum wage homeless people to remove the rods. Any mistake will cause a fission. Maybe low level, maybe an atomic explosion, according to the physicist. They've already got smoke and fire coming out of there. Now they got the homeless people on suicide missions going in there. This is crazy. And all you gangsters in governments and all you nihilists, you're going to end up destroying our entire civilization with this type of behavior. Pull up, grow up. Now here is the toll-free number. I want to hear from West Coasters only, or folks in Japan as well, where they covered up how deadly it was, and that's now come out 3 years later. 800-259-9231. 800-259-9231. 800-259-9231. John Wayne shot some Westerns in nuclear testing areas out west, and he believed that's what gave him that big tumor in his lung, and a whole bunch of other people on those crews that shot several films there right after they did nuke test. This is the same type of garbage we're talking about here, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not trying to be an alarmist. We told you this was coming. It's happening. 800-259-9231. Let me go over some of these headlines for you. Health officials, no concern, quote, over 500% increase in radiation levels. Health officials, no concern over 500% increase in radiation levels on California beach. PrisonPlanet.com, Infowars.com, Mikhail Thalen. I then wrote an article with Watson this morning, basically expanding on Thalen's, that's on DrudgeReport.com on the right-hand side. Has Fukushima radioactive wave already hit California? I don't know, is Bill Clinton a liar? Is Obamacare a screw job? Yes, it's the next wave, folks. Health officials confirm spike in radiation on San Francisco Beach, but have no answers. And again, this has been out for a week, these increased spikes. We were talking about it last week. And my great reporters were debating it back there, but nobody came to me and said, hey, let's do a report on this. I saw Thalen's article this morning at 7 a.m., wrote one with Watson and said, of course we're sending our reporters. I mean, absolutely. This is a huge, huge, huge story. I'm sending Jakari Jackson, Adon Salazar, and 2 camera guys out there. And Adon's going to be writing articles. Jakari's going to be reporting. And again, they're going to be going up the coastline. I'm almost tempted to split them in 2 groups, maybe send another reporter and send one group north and one group south. But no, I'm going to go with my original plan. I don't think 4 is too many people, but we just need to get in there and just hammer the info and actually document all this. Okay, let's go over some background, though, first. Researcher links rise in Fallujah birth defects and concerns to U.S. assault. Defects in newborns 11 times higher than normal. Now, the article I had out of The Independent was 16 times higher, according to Lancet. So that's just what DU did. Here's another one. West Coast officials, Obama, don't worry about radiation risk in the U.S. Well, there you go. Everything's fine. And if you're against the radiation, you're racist. Health officials respond to beach radiation scare. Half Moon Bay Review. Let me just read part of this article, then we're going to go to break and come back and take your calls at 800-259-9231, 800-259-9231. It goes on to say here that health officials respond to beach scare. An amateur video of a Geiger counter showing what appear to be high radiation levels at the coastside beach has drawn the attention of local, state, and federal public health officials since being posted last week. The short video has galvanized public concerns. See, it's the alternative media doing this, that radioactive material could be landing on the local coastline after traveling from Japan as the result of the 2011 meltdown on the Fukushima Daiichi reactors. Government officials say they are looking into the video shot December 23rd and performing their own sampling of the beaches, but they have found no indication so far that radiation levels were hazardous. Now listen to this whitewash. They go on to admit they're up, but they say they don't know if that's hazardous. It's not something that we feel is an immediate public health concern, said Dean Patterson, County Environmental Health Director. We're not even close to the point of saying that any of this is from Fukushima. First posted last week to YouTube, the 7-minute video shows the meter of the Geiger counter as an off-camera man measures different spots on the beach south of Pillar Point Harbor. The gadget's alarm begins ringing as its radiation ratchets up about 1,050 counts per minute, or roughly 5 times the typical amount found in the environment. Counts per minute is a standard way for Geiger counters to measure radiation, but does not directly equate to the strength of the hazard level to humans. Yeah, it doesn't tell you the type of radiation, the type of isotopes, the type of hot particles. Those factors are put on the type of radioactive particles. Nonetheless, the video went viral. And then when we come back, they go on and admit, oh, but the county did test, and it is up, like he says, 5 times, but we don't know if that's dangerous. Top-rated customer service, top-quality products, incredibly reasonable prices. We're seeing attacks on our freedoms like never before. It's non-GMO, high-quality, delicious, nutritious. MyPatriotSupply.com/Alex. You can also find the complete line of My Patriot Supply products at InfoWarsStore.com. But they've got everything at MyPatriotSupply.com/Alex. Briefly, I'm not going to belabor this. I told you this before the radioactive wave hit. In fact, guys, will you bring me my survival shield? I was taking some of it this morning. It's out there. Thank you. My open bottle, thanks. I take the Nason iodine because it's the purest form, the proprietary form. Most Nason that says it's Nason isn't. If it's black or red on the paper, it's not. It has to be blue, purple, ladies and gentlemen. And this goes directly into your blood, directly into your cells, and fills up the thyroid so the radioactive isotopes can't get in there. And it helps fund the broadcast when you get it. It's available at InfoWarsLife.com. Or call toll-free 888-253-3139. We are on the verge of selling out of it, but we'll get more in about a week or two. But we do still have plenty of the fluoride shield that also has nascent iodine in it, but 5 other ingredients, and it's 2 ounces, not 1 ounce. So it is certainly important for the thyroid and across the board to detox the body. So Survival Shield and Fluoride Shield available at InfoWarsLife.com. And again, the government will not tell you that during increased radiation levels you need more iodine to protect the thyroid. They will not tell you this. So consult your physician, do your own research, and then make a decision. Do you want your thyroid full of radioactive isotopes or good iodine that blocks it? It's a very simple question. The government's hoarding 14 million dosages of it on top of other tens of millions they bought last week. What's going on there? I think we can all put 2 and 2 together. There's a radioactive wave hitting the West Coast. Okay, we've got Wesley, Paul, Josh, Laureen, Roy. We'll go to all of you throughout the next 30 minutes. Then we have a whistleblower on Fast and Furious joining us, a big whistleblower that's been in the news to give us inside intel on what really happened. But first, let's go to Paul in California, and then we'll go to Wesley, Josh, Laureen, and Roy. Paul, thanks for calling.
Hey, Alex. Yeah, Paul here from California. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can, sir.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, I live in close to the beach, like close to Redondo Beach here in California, and I have to agree with you. Long-time listener and first-time caller. I think the governments are just totally lying to us about this stuff.
Well, what's that reactor by San Diego 3 years ago that had a big release of radiation and the alarms went off? And so they announced, they said, we're turning the alarms off now so people don't get scared in the future.
Yeah, that's out of San Clemente. That's, excuse my pronunciation here, it's San Onofre or something
Yeah, that's
like
it.
that.
That's it. Yeah, I have trouble pronouncing it. That's it, yeah.
Yeah, they actually have decommissioned that. Southern California Edison has actually decommissioned that plant due to all its mechanical problems that it's had.
Yeah, good.
So, I don't want to have that thing anywhere near us whatsoever. So,
well, what is your take on the mainstream media in California not covering this?
Oh, they're just all bought and paid for by the government. It's just propaganda that, hey, everything's okay, don't worry about it. I think it's a flat-out lie completely. I work with a lot of top physicists and stuff in the industry, and they're like, yeah, try to stay indoors as much as you can to, avoid direct exposure to this stuff. And, at first, when Fukushima first went up...
Hold on, I want to hear more about this. Stay there. Back in 1 minute. Then we'll go to everybody else. Stay with us. Second hour coming up. We're now into hour number 2, and if you just joined us, the story is the top story on the right-hand side of drudgereport.com. It's a Infowars.com story. Fukushima radioactive wave has already hit California. We asked the question, has it? But no, it's hit. Radiation's 5 times the normal level, the health department admits, but says there's no proof that's bad for you. Also, the FBI says their primary mission is national security, not law enforcement. That is a big deal because they're just letting organized crime run wild, of course, and then following stage terror that their bosses run. So that's just some of the news. Health officials say no concern over 500% increase in radiation levels on California beach. So that's the news right there. On the coldest day in America in 20 years, we have Al Gore's stupidest global warming comments. We're going to be going over some of that today. But right now, let's go back to the caller who I was just talking to. He just dropped. I told him to hold so that he could talk about the people he was talking to in California. Oh, it doesn't matter. Let's go ahead and talk to Josh in California. We're talking to folks on the West Coast about the increased radiation as the waves from Fukushima finally reach the West Coast. Go ahead, sir.
Good morning, Alex. How are you doing today?
I'm doing better than some folks. How are you doing out there?
Well, it's my first day since the 26th. I caught that nasty weaponized flu they were sending around. I'm about 8 to 9 miles inland the way the crow flies, 60 miles north of Bohemia Grove in Mendocino County. And I've actually went out of my way to speak to officials around the town I live in. It's about 30,000 people. And I've asked them about, guys that test water and things like that for the county and the city, actually. And I just get looks like I'm out of my mind, My girlfriend's ex-husband has a delivery company, and every day for 6 years, he would go to the coast of Fort Bragg, pick up water samples, and bring them to a testing lab, I'm pretty sure right here in the town of Ukiah. And about 6 months ago, they flat out dropped his contract with no reason at all.
Now, are you talking about Fort Bragg
yes, sir.
On the East Coast or the West Coast?
No, on the West Coast. On the West Coast.
So there's a Fort Bragg. There's a Fort Bragg on the West Coast.
Yes, there is.
Okay, and well, I'd like to see some documentation of that. But I mean, here's the deal. Notice that they've already didn't tell the public for a year that tuna was radioactive. That came out a year ago. They didn't tell the public when the milk was radioactive till later. And now the people you talk to act like it's weird to want to test for Fukushima because that's the new morals. The new morals are don't care, be an idiot, be a sucker. That's what a real man does. And it's incredible that it's citizens out there with Geiger counters that have forced the health department in San Francisco, in the county that surrounds San Francisco, to go test, and they admit it is 5 times normal, but we don't know if that's from Fukushima. And we don't know if that's a problem. And I do see there is a Fort Bragg in Northern California up by Sonoma County. So that's very interesting. He said that they would do tests there, but they don't now.
Right. Where they actually stopped a civilian from hauling the water samples to the lab over here in inland. Maybe there was a possibility that something could get out that they don't want.
Oh, well, there's no doubt, sir. Radiation levels have been confirmed by the health department. in the county where San Francisco is that radiation levels are 5 times. I'm not trying to scare people. Some readings are 9 or 10 times. But I told my reporters, you will get some radiation. You do not have to go on this mission. You can choose to go on it if you wish. But it's not a problem for people that are there a few days. It's people that are there for weeks, months, years. I mean, undoubtedly, according to every physicist we've talked to, this is going to have a big effect on you. But hey, we're already getting cancer from the glyphosate, the fluoride, everything else. Why not? Depopulate the earth. Yay! Well, the top story on Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com is a doozy. Very important information. It's also the top story on the right-hand side of DrudgeReport.com. Fukushima radioactive wave already begins to hit California. Fox News reported back on November 29th that a radioactive wave from all the seawater they've been pumping over it was nearing the United States and would hit in early January 2014. There's no doubt this has happened, and California health officials in the state-run health department in San Francisco for the county say that it is up 500% over normal levels, but that they can't say that that's a health concern, and they don't know where it's coming from. So everything's fine, move along, go to sleep. What needs to be tested is the fish. And obviously, we're going to send our reporters, when they get out there with Geiger counters, into the fish markets, the open-air Asian fish markets, into the grocery stores, you name it, with the Geiger counters. By the way, don't think the dinosaur media hasn't gone and pitched this to their bosses. And they're like, no. In fact, will you guys print me the article, I think it was NBC News, Los Angeles, but it doesn't matter, from about a year ago that 3 months after Fukushima, the tuna had radioactive isotopes in it. It was like 3 to 5 times, depending on the fish, and that they decided to not tell the public. The Food and Drug Administration and the EPA, in conjunction, tested the fish and didn't tell you till a year later, just like the dust on 9/11, just like the DU the troops are using. So I'm going to send my crew out to the fish places here in Austin. That stuff's coming from there as well. I mean, where is the real media in this country? It takes citizens going out in the last 3 years. It'll be 3 years in March since Fukushima. And they found a doubling, a tripling early on in the seawater. Now more waves of it have come. And it's 5 times, 6 times, 7 times, 8 times, 9 times, 10 times. We're going with the lowest reading. There's a whole bunch of YouTube videos that citizens are shooting up and down the California coast, and it's in other states too. They're just not doing it there. There's more folks in California per capita, so more have put up YouTube videos. That's another issue. We should search for Oregon and Washington State videos that have been put up in the last week. And then the health department went out there, tested it, and confirmed that indeed it was higher levels. Health officials responded to the beach radiation scare. In the following days, the other amateurs with Geiger counters began posting similar videos online. The videos follow other alarming news last month that starfish were mysteriously disintegrating along the West Coast, a trend that has not been linked yet to any cause. Past computer simulations had indicated the radioactive cesium-137 from the Fukushima reactors could begin appearing on the West Coast shores by early 2014. Those findings published in August by the Institute for Cross-Disciplinary Physics and the Complex Systems in Spain also noted that any radioactive material that crossed the Pacific would likely be diluted and fall below international safety levels. So they're trying to calm people down here. County health officials first learned of the radiation levels last week, and they sent out their own inspector on December 28 to Pacifica with a Geiger counter. Using a different unit, the county inspector measured the beach to have a radiation level of about 100 micro REMs per hour, or 5 times the normal amount. Exactly what the citizen activist found with their Geiger counter. Exactly. And we're going to send our reporters to that exact area and go up and down the beach. We're going to send them to Pacifica. We're going to send them to the other areas listed here. REM stands for rotogen equivalent man, a measurement of the dose and statistical biological effects presented by radiation. Although the radiation levels are higher than typical, Pearson emphasized that it was still not unsafe for humans. A person would need to be exposed to 100 micro REMs of radiation for 50,000 hours before it surpassed safety guidelines by the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, explained. Here's the problem, ladies and gentlemen. We're going back to your calls. You get that background radiation because there'll be a hot particle down in the sand, a foot under the sand, or a hot particle on a log of beechwood or on a shell, and then you're picking it up 10 feet away. It's making the ambient level go up. That's why you can move the Geiger counter around on these videos, and it'll be 50, and then it'll spike up to 100 or 150, depending on when you wave it, because there's hot particles all over the place. I will tell you this. I would not swim in the West Coast water right now. I would surely, I mean, where's the cities? Where's the counties? They should have radiation levels posted daily off readings. I mean, they tell you if jellyfish numbers are high. They tell you if the riptide's high. But they don't want you to know about the radiation. Quite frankly, we've already had the stuff from the air come over and hit us years ago. And they didn't tell us not to drink milk or not eat vegetables that grew on the surface of the ground like spinach for a few months. They didn't care about us. They just said, go ahead and eat it. Now this is waterborne, and it's going to get picked up by wildlife and spread everywhere. But it will get diluted even more. But the main issue is being in that water and eating the fish that come out of that water. And no one is warning anybody. And it's the attitude of out of sight, out of mind. Peterson, the head of the health department, admitted he was befuddled as to why radiation levels were higher than normal, but he was skeptical that Fukushima meltdown could be the cause. Oh, yeah, that's not what it is. Even though the computer models all show it should be happening right now. He noted that many innocuous items could spike the radiation levels in the area, including red-painted disposable eating utensils. What? Total whitewash, folks, out of one local paper. What would you do without citizens out there with Geiger counters and citizen media online then picked up? Here's the food chain. Picked up by citizens on the ground, picked up by Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com, then carried by the Drudge Report to the next level. They will now have to address this. And you will now see them, ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox, whitewashing everything on the West Coast, telling you everything's fine. And, you know, I'm not saying this is a super big crisis. I think it is, but I mean, obviously, it may dissipate. I hope it does. It probably is just going to keep building up as the meltdown continues. But for them to just cover it up and for this to not be a news issue, you know it's serious. And with their history of lying to everybody about everything you can imagine, this is a very serious situation. 800-259-9231. I'm going to go to Roy. Then I'm going to go to Wesley and Paul and Billy and Lorraine and everybody. So have your point. We're going to move to the next person. They're all calling in from California, Oregon, and other places. That's where I want to hear from people. Let's talk to Roy in Oregon. Thanks for calling.
Hey, Alex. Yeah, I was at work one day and doing a safety observation on somebody, and all of a sudden I get this hot metallic taste in my mouth. It felt like the back of my head was going to blow off. And it was like, what was that? And I had a foreman standing next to me, and I told him, I said, hey, I think something just happened. I don't know what it was. But then after starting to understand what this whole thing is with the hot particles, I'm pretty sure that's what I sucked in, because the very next day it was like my whole immune system had shut down, and I came down with this horrible cold and just felt like garbage.
Well, that's it. Radiation sickness can make you have impaired immune system, or a normal bacteria or virus can kill you. And a lot of experts think that's why the flu and bugs are so bad this season, is because all of America has been basting for almost 3 years in radiation.
I can imagine. Yeah, I get most of my information from Arnie Gunderson, and then Radchick on Facebook, Christina Consolo.
We need to get them on. I've heard of their work. They're getting Geiger counter numbers from all over the country.
Right. And,
well, what are other Oregonians and people you talk to saying about this?
They have no clue what's going on. And I keep telling as many people as I can. I go to church. I go to, when I'm out at restaurants or whatever, I'm telling people we got a big problem. And they kind of look at me like I'm stupid. And it's like, I've been studying this ever since it went off in, 2011.
How dare you be concerned about 5 reactors bigger than Chernobyl blowing up and being downwind from it? That is so bizarre to care about that. You should love radiation, sir, and be trendy.
Oh, I know.
Did you hear the other caller that people think it's weird that he's worried about it too? I mean, what is wrong with these people?
Well, it's like they're all in a dream world, and they don't really care what's going on around them until they start getting sick, and then they'll start, waking up. But by then, it's going to be too late.
Well, now they've got Obamacare that costs 3 times more. Isn't that a good deal?
No, good deal. Anyway, one more thing. You were out at the river this summer, and you were floating, and you were looking up into the sky and just amazed at the universe. Have you ever seen that video called God of Wonders?
No, I haven't.
You go to the website, godofwondersvideo.org, and it's all about creation. It's the most amazing video you're going to ever see, or your listeners, and it just goes through, the universe, how things were created, butterflies and fish, and it will rock your world. It's amazing.
Can't wait to watch it. That's why the globalists are letting the reactors melt down, why they're doing all the GMO that's so poisonous to the Earth's genetic code, the biosphere's genetic code. It's because they want to hurt creation. I mean, more and more, I just say it's the devil. You look at what they do, they don't just not care about hurting the Earth, they enjoy it, while using the destruction of the Earth as a pretext to get us to give up all of our liberties and do whatever they say in the name of saving the Earth while they're killing the Earth. I mean, it is amazing. All right, thank you so much, Roy. We're going to talk to Wesley, and we're going to talk to Laureen, Billy, Paul, and others on the radiation waves hitting us from Fukushima and the media blackout. And every move and breath Congress takes is being spied on by the illegal NSA, who won't even tell Congress what they're doing. Meanwhile, Joseph Curl has an article out today from the Washington Times. Irony alert, global warmists get stuck in ice, and the world is facing record cold temperatures in the Antarctic and the Arctic. Historic deep freeze across North America proves global warming is getting worse, right? Mike Adams makes the joke from Natural News. On the coldest day in America in 20 years, here are Al Gore's stupidest global warming quotes. I'm going to get to some of those at the start of the next hour. That is just some of what we're going to be covering. Risk of supervolcano eruption, big enough to affect the world, far greater than thought, say scientists. That's in the London Independent. We're going to be breaking that down as well. Meanwhile, though, Obama came out back in September and said that we were going to have record hot temperatures this winter. But of course, none of that even matters. Don't let facts get in the way. In fact, here's the article. I was looking for it from CNS News. Executive order, excessively high temperatures already harming public health. Back in November, it wasn't September. 2 months before today's assault by record low temperatures, he signed an executive order to harass businesses more and do a bunch of other garbage and shut down power plants because of global warming. Of course, China is only opening new plants, not shutting them down. That's all part of the plan, shut down America. Wesley in Tennessee, he's not calling from the West Coast, but says he has friends in Japan, wants to talk about the radiation in Fukushima. Go ahead.
Yeah, Alex, I'm actually a Japanese language major and history major at Memphis University, and I have a number of foreign exchange student friends. I hang out with mostly Japanese people just because I guess I can't stand the mentality of most Americans nowadays. But, yeah, they all say that there's at least 3 of them here that are from Fukushima Prefecture and one from Sendai, which is about 50 miles north, and they say the babies being born there are so many birth defects. All the kids are low energy. They're fatigued. They don't have any desire to do anything. They just feel like zombies. And I have another friend here that lives in Michigan, but she's Japanese, and her uncle, and I can vouch for this. I can't prove it over the phone, but her uncle is in the Yakuza, and he says everything that the government is he's pretty high level too, but he's saying everything that the government over there is putting out is complete BS, and they're trying to shut up the media over there.
Oh, yeah, they tell schools to stay open just 5 miles away, but it's on record they're having birth defects and kids dropping dead, and most of the people that were part of the first mission died. I mean, it's on record. It's come out. They're lying. But notice they lied up front, so that becomes the official story. How does this tie into California? What do you think about the increased radiation levels there and the very same whitewash happening?
Well, it's clear. If you look at the prevailing winds around the world, it flows from Japan to the United States. That's just basic common knowledge. And
so do the currents. But see, being informed is a conspiracy theory. Go ahead.
Oh, of course, and that's what's happening in Japan as well. I mean, ever since World War II, I guess, their government has been completely controlled by the same globalists. But I think the Japanese media are trying harder, at least than our media, to try and cover this stuff. But you covered this yourself. They're trying to shut their media up.
That's right. They signed an executive order 3 weeks ago to shut them up about all this. Japan is basically going into a dictatorship.
Yeah, and all my friends here, they're saying the overall consensus of the Japanese people, they don't trust their government. I mean, I think it's a worldwide phenomenon.
Well, it sounds like they're extremist. Are they racist? I mean, if you don't love government and love everything they do, you're racist. MSNBC said so.
Oh yeah, I think they're complete extremists. I mean, I
mean, did you see that teapot that looked nothing like Hitler that was banned? I mean, if I see a cloud that looks like Hitler, you know, we need a bomb to go off in the cloud to knock away the Hitler mustache because it's racist.
Hey, they're even upset about, you know, the government rearming and, you know, this dispute with China. So I guess they're racist against Chinese too, you know.
Well, I mean, look, you got to worship government and do what they say. And you heard the callers from California and Oregon. If you care about the increased radiation, you're an extremist and weird. It's weird to care about massive radiation pounding you for almost 3 years. I mean, it's weird. And so, you know, I'm not scared of the radiation. I'm scared of Al-Qaeda that our government publicly runs. And I want to give all my rights up so they'll keep me safe. How's that sound?
That sounds great. You know, might as well. We've been doing it all along.
There you go. Drink some fluoride. Eat some GMO. Put your kids on Ritalin and Adderall. There's a football game coming on tonight. Yeah. I told you this 3 years ago, or almost 3 years ago when Fukushima happened, but I've talked about all the radiological events in the Northern Hemisphere, all the leaking reactors, the DU, all of it. The Northern Hemisphere has more than double the radiation of the Southern Hemisphere now. And our cancer rates are massively higher than people in the Southern Hemisphere. Just look at those numbers. And now with Fukushima, conservatively, according to physicists we've had on, 10 times bigger than Chernobyl in 1986, you are insane if you don't take a regular thyroid supplement. In my view, consult your physician. But even gourmet salt, if you check the brand that has the natural iodine, not the chemical iodine, will protect you. So it can be done pretty inexpensively. But when you've got radiation, you need higher levels of it, according to the medical information I've read. But check it for yourself. We sell what the government just bought 14 million dosages of last week. And we said it was because of the wave hitting the West Coast, and now that's breaking and confirmed. We have this in stock, ThyroSafe, but this is what you take when the major fallout's happening. What you take regularly to fill up your thyroid with good iodine, and what I take, is the proprietary nascent iodine from InfoWarsLife.com, known as Survival Shield. And I came across this 6 months ago in my quest to find the best iodine that my children could take that wouldn't upset their stomach and that they would take. And because this is real pure iodine, not oxidized iodine mixed in with other stuff, I'm not knocking it. It's better than nothing, especially on your skin. You know, anything's better than nothing. Well, you've heard the rave reviews. It's done amazing things for my clarity, body, my organs, everything. And for the folks that have taken it, InfoWarsLife.com, or call toll-free 888-253-3139. And we will sell out of it today, if not by tomorrow. But then you can pre-order, and it should be here in a week, but I want to say 2 weeks because all the storms and the rest of it. But the point is, it's made right here in America. The glycerin is non-GMO, kosher certified from Germany. Only place you can get corn to make glycerin that isn't GMO. One of the only places. And the point is that we also have Fluoride Shield that's 2 ounces, not just 1 ounce of the Survival Shield. The Fluoride Shield has the iodine in it as well, but 5 other ingredients known to detoxify and protect the glands and more, developed with Dr. Group and others. Anthony Gucciardi was involved as well. The Shilacine and 4 other compounds, and then the iodine, that's 6 compounds. Fluoride Shield, and I'm also taking, it can be taken with the Survival Shield Nascent Iodine. So toll-free number 888-253-3139, or you can simply go to InfoWarsLife.com. But we should have produced and ordered more. I just keep getting caught off guard by these Fukushima developments, and they've got homeless people removing the rods. If those rods end up touching, it could cause, well, will cause an explosion. The only question is how big of a fire or explosion will it cause? And it just goes from bad to worse because the elite don't care anymore. This happens throughout history. They're just insane. With GMO, genetic engineering, overfishing, all of it, they just are crazy. And then meanwhile, just want to tax us for carbon taxes. So again, InfoWarsLife.com. Now is the time to get prepared, ladies and gentlemen, on so many fronts. Let me hit some of the other headlines. And then we will go to our whistleblower guest that is joining us. The Federal Reserve is hiring lots of new armed police officers. It's, of course, private. The Social Security Administration is spending tens of millions per facility to literally harden them and create SWAT team-like divisions. Also have articles here in Austin. I told you yesterday about armored SWAT vehicles being used for the first time code visits in California. They SWAT teamed a guy who dared build a basement, a fallout basement, and his neighbors called the police on him, so they SWAT teamed him and took his guns. He's now suing. You don't even get a knock at the door. You're just a regular, nice person, done nothing wrong. The fact that you want to get prepared, the fact that you want to build a basement for tornadoes, that's criminal. No judge, no jury, no charges. You just have your guns taken. This is the insane government. And you heard the callers earlier in California who are concerned about radiation that the government admits is 5 times regular. Their neighbors and friends just laugh at them and go, you're insane. Who cares? Oh, radiation, I dance in it. Open borders, we dance in it. FBI's primary mission is now national security, not law enforcement. And then there's this article right here, J.P. Morgan Chase to pay $2 billion to avoid Bernard Madoff investigation reports. So they've stolen trillions. Now they pay a small tip to the criminal government, J.P. Morgan and co. to pay another fine. And again, the FBI has cut its white-collar fraud groups down to nothing. Down to nothing. It's a total criminal takeover. Now all they fight is terrorism. Meanwhile, the globalists run most of the terrorists. While on vacation, Obama shames GOP for going home for the holidays for even 3 days. You cannot make this up. He took, what, a 13, 14-day vacation? And 160 rounds of golf? Michelle is still there, millions a day. I mean, it just doesn't matter. It's so insane. An excellent article by Washington's blog up on Infowars.com. The biggest terrorism scaremongers are themselves the ones promoting terrorism. I love Washington's blog because I talked about this yesterday, and then he wrote an article about it. I want to get Washington's blog on sometimes. His nom de plume is Washington's blog, because I can tell a lot of times I cover something and point something out, and then he writes about it, which I love. I pointed out Peter King and John McCain are all funding al-Qaeda, meeting with al-Qaeda, and he says you've got to spy on Congress in case they're with al-Qaeda, and it's the guy with al-Qaeda. I mean, that is certainly rich, isn't it? I've got some other important news to get the race baiting going even better in this country. I'm going to cover this after calls in the middle of the next hour. Judge allows access to emails about Arizona's immigration law. All you got to have is an ID to vote. The illegals are voting everywhere. The country's collapsing. The third world's collapsing. We're going bankrupt. The illegals are being brought in to vote to take our guns. And then meanwhile, they're going to take hundreds of thousands of emails in the year-long debate on SB 1070 or 1070. And, of course, they're going to have racists sending in emails. They're going to have fakes sending in false flags. to then claim that if anyone sent emails against Mexicans, then the law is racist. That's what it actually says. Opponents of SB 1070 consider the country's toughest state law against illegal immigrants may examine correspondence to see whether it contains racial overtones, the ruling says, to see if there were any emails sent that were racist. I mean, this is total race war garbage. By the way, I got good news for the patriots and bad news for the globalists. My biggest fans on the streets of Austin are Hispanic Americans who love their kids and love liberty and want to own guns and have private property. It's not working. The Hispanics that have been here and are Americans know what's going on. You got a language barrier to the other ones, but I think this is going to backfire on them, folks. Mexicans in Mexico want to own guns and are forming illegal militias to protect themselves. This is not going to work. We've got to reach out to these folks. So we've got that. But just talk about incredible race baiting. You can go with keyword data, search through any emails you want of an entire state database and find anything you want. Schizophrenics thinking they've got chips in their brains, crazy people. I'll guarantee you this. There's going to be tons of racist Hispanics saying, you racist whites, go back to Europe, you're scum. I mean, just because that's going on, does that mean this is crazy, folks? No country is as wide open as we are to immigration. And then you put people on welfare, we're going bankrupt. All right, for the balance of the hour and a little bit of the next, we're joined by our guest. This is a big deal. This is a major whistleblower from Fast and Furious. And what they've done is tried to scapegoat the gun shops and gun dealers who exposed Fast and Furious. Shelly Castile, a former DEA top agent, former Army veteran in Vietnam, highly decorated, honorably discharged, longtime guest on this show, exposed that our government was funding Los Zetas, shipping guns in through gun dealers, that they tried to hire him to train Los Zetas at the King Ranch in South Texas. He was going through a divorce. He was a school teacher, already been in the military, then a Border Patrol agent, then served 15 years as a DEA agent, became a school teacher, lost everything in a divorce, sold his 15 guns. The state police with the ATF, one of his so-called friends said, oh, I'll buy that shotgun from you. They set him up and sent him to jail for 3 years because he exposed Fast and Furious. 8 years ago, before Obama even got in office, this was going on, and then accelerated. Now, our next guest has been in the LA Times, Fox News, you name it. He was a firearms dealer serving a 3-year probation. And he was set up. Ian Garland's an American citizen, but originally from Australia. Fast and Furious, justicenow.org is his website. And I want to give him the floor here today to break down what really happened with Fast and Furious, because our government was shipping the guns, fully auto, hand grenades, grenade launchers, to the different drug cartels to destabilize Mexico. Then when it started coming out, they burned a few gun shops that they'd ordered to also be part of it in, quote, investigations that were really meant to then also blame the Second Amendment. And that's come out in memos via CBS News. So this was a false flag staged event that blew up in their criminal faces. Now let's go to our guest, Ian Garland, Fast and Furious Justice Now. Tell folks in a nutshell, then we'll get into more details about what happened to you, your story, and where you are right now, sir. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you, Alex. I moved from California about 5-6 years ago to Chaparral, New Mexico. Met my wife, got married on the 4th of July, out of all dates, because that's special to us. Opened a little gun shop. I had one in El Paso, one in Chaparral there, and I'd go back and forth. And after a amount of time, I had the people come from Columbus. They drove a police car. They were in uniform. They were who they said they were. It was the mayor, the police chief, the trustee, police officer from Columbus, New Mexico.
And this case came out later, yes.
Oh, absolutely, yes. And they wanted to buy some guns. I'm like, yeah, you know the procedure. I have to call in a background check and get it passed by the FBI. And they said, no, fine with that. So a month later, they came back and they wanted to buy 10 more. And I said, what do you want to buy 10 for? Well, we want to give some to our families and friends, you know, for protection for the border, on the border right there. And sometimes we go to gun shows, buy, sell, trade, collect. And I'd already not only checked with the ATF, I had complained to the ATF about private sales with 300 to 400 guns on their tables with no paperwork, no background check required. And the ATF tells me that's legal. So my customers want to do that also. So I'm like,
yeah,
okay.
What they were doing was selectively enforcing with groups they controlled.
Yeah,
in Austin, if you sell your granddaddy's shotgun, the ATF's going to beat your head in the parking lot and take you to jail for stuff totally legal. But if you're one of their tables that they're running and making money off of, you can do whatever you want.
Absolutely. And when I sell more than one handgun, you have to lodge a multiple purchase form, one to the ATF and one to the local sheriff, which was Otero County Sheriff here in New Mexico. And I did that for 18 months. I sold to these people off and on. And finally, the ATF, they were following me. I was chasing them down the road. I ended up doing an undercover sting because one guy tried to bribe me, not this group from Columbus, but another person tried to bribe me, and he wouldn't leave me alone. And I said, hey, you guys need to help me with this guy. And they said, will you help us basically get him? So after much apprehension, I did the undercover sting. You know, I was scared of reprisals from my wife, my family, everything, but I did my part. And then they come and ask me about these guys from Columbus. Are you worried about they buy 20 guns one month, 20 the next? I'm like, no, they want to go to gun shows. They buy, sell, collect, trade. I mean, they do the background check. They drive a police car to my business. They're in uniform. I mean, why would I be worried, especially here? This is the other point I want to make, why I wasn't worried. This was almost 18 months, Alex, with no trace information. But if guns are turned up, the procedure is they're supposed to be traced back to me through the ATF, and I say, yeah, I sold it to John Smith, et cetera, blah, blah, blah. And
sure, the truth is, because I've read your case, for tell folks, the ATF knew the whole thing. Once you exposed it, they had to cover their butts by acting like they were investigating.
Yes. Absolutely. And it was proven in the congressional report, which I had a copy of, that they had the trace information and they stood on it so their little operation could continue. And that was proven. And then, of course, we all know what happened. It didn't matter that thousands of Mexican citizens were dying, but when one Border Patrol agent was killed, God rest his soul, we know what happened.
Absolutely. There's now been a death. Tell folks about that.
Brian Terry?
Absolutely. And now it's come out in mainstream news, Arizona Central, that the FBI was key in the slaying and the cover-up.
Oh, absolutely. And then come to find out, I did research after the last 18 months. They knew about these court documents. They knew about these people in Columbus before I even moved to Chaparral back in 2007. And these people, the government officials that bought from me for 18 months, had direct ties with Jamie Avila. That's Jamie Avila, who the ATF let buy that rifle, who killed Brian Terry.
And this has all come out in the Arizona Republic. It's come out in the LA Times, but still no one's gotten in trouble. So people say if something like this happened, we'd know about it. People would blow the whistle. Well, you have blown the whistle, and to try to discredit you up front because you were the original whistleblower, they ended up trumping stuff up on you and throwing you in jail. And I would say, sir, your life's in danger now.
Oh, absolutely. And it got me in El Paso here. I'm 300 miles from my family. I mean, I have no car, no money. And the thing was, I won my case on Friday the 13th last month in December. And they put me out on the street for 5 days homeless. I had no money, no ID, no phone, no clothes, no car. I mean, can you believe that? The first thing I did was finally went to a library, got in touch with my wife. She helped me. I got this little cell phone. I mean, oh, my God, I couldn't believe I was homeless for 5 days. I mean, that's probably about the worst experience of my life in all this.
Well, I can tell you, if you're a small gun shop with a John Wayne photo hanging in it, and you don't dot an I, they're going to take you to jail. But if you work for the criminal government and are actually a drug dealer, I mean, that's all the ATF and FBI are at that level. They are the drug dealers. They are the gun runners. And it comes out over and over again. They've always been that. They are law enforcement so they can carry out the criminal operations, folks.
I mean, it doesn't make sense. Why would I do the paperwork and all the background checks and the multiple reporting forms and make a paper trail back to myself?
Well, yeah, you're the guy that, for those that don't know, that blew the whistle, that made them investigate, that ended up bringing down these police chiefs and mayors in New Mexico that were involved in this. So the ATF, to cover their butt because they were involved in it, put you in jail.
Well, absolutely. The bottom line is, how do you explain that I was selling for 18 months to people they knew for years were smuggling? How bad do I make them look, Alex? How bad?
You make them look bad. And as you said, you've now explain your case more when we come back and where you think Fast and Furious is going and how big you really think it is. Major whistleblower joins us right now. His probation officer, for his evil crime of selling guns to police with background checks on record, his crime was exposing it, so they had to bust one of their little ATF operations. That's all come out. His crime is blowing the whistle. And he was telling us off air that his probation officer, and tell us what you've been convicted of now, but then the other case you just won, that you're not supposed to talk to the media. I mean, I guess they were supposed to put you in jail to silence you. Tell us what they're telling you.
That's what they did, Alex. They kept me in solitary confinement for 473 days. CBS News flew out to interview me. It was all authorized. And at the last moment, they canned it. I mean, I was freezing in that cell. I lost 72 pounds. I was sitting in raw sewage, cleaning it up with my hands day after day. Not once, not twice, but multiple times. Oh, you just can't believe what they did to me. And they denied my First Amendment right. And early last week, the media tried to interview me again, and they denied me. I just can't believe it. They got the lawyers involved. El Paso Times here did a big story on me yesterday, and they were going after him. I mean, this is just unbelievable. And I guess that all came about because now the Mexican Consul General wants to speak to me tomorrow. They actually denied that, but suddenly after the lawyers got involved, they had to change their heart because that was my First Amendment right, and I'm an American citizen. I'm damn proud of it.
Absolutely. Well, we're proud to have you as a citizen. And I followed the case of everything. You're the guy that blew the whistle. So they put you in jail to cover it up. And then for 400 days had you in solitary confinement. That's what they did to me. A few times I've been in jail. They always have a special cell they put people in that they don't like. Yeah. With crap all over the walls and then laugh at you. Imagine wanting to abuse people like that. That's just amazing.
My God, I have permanent and physical injuries right now. I mean, what I was subjected to was unbelievable. I mean, everyone said they were trying to break you, but I would not give up, Alex. I won. I beat them. They lied on what they said. That's how I was able to get out early, and now I'm trying to overturn this and get a big investigation. I mean, this needs to be investigated totally. Even these people, the government officials from Columbus, I ran into them by accident, and they were kind of worried, you know, and they're like, well, we're sorry, man. I'm like, look, guys.
By the way, you know what one of the top Los Zetas guys who was in federal court a year ago said? He said they were shipping drugs and guns back and forth for the CIA and FBI.
Absolutely. They were into everything, these people.
And the FBI came into the federal court and said, that's true, national security, and shut down him being able to use that he openly worked for them. Go ahead.
That's unbelievable. And these people, you know, the mayor, the police chief, they all said to my face, hey, Ian, we're sorry you're here, man. We all told them you had nothing to do with us. You know, we only used your gun store to buy from, as well as many others. So they have known from the start, Alex, and the phone calls, there's nothing on the phone calls that I wasn't involved. It was mere, how do you say it, buyer-seller relationship. That is it. So they still did this to me basically because I make them look bad. 18 months selling to people they knew for years to promote their little operation.
Sure, and this is to protect Obama past the election.
Absolutely. I mean, this is one of the things, this is hilarious. I came back from Mexico, they stripped my car, tell me I can go on my way. A week later, I get arrested, and they ask me about this magazine. Tell us about that magazine they found in your car. I'm like, what are you talking about? I sanitized my car. I go to Mexico, Alex, because my wife is diabetic. Here in El Paso, it's $200. Mexico, it's $30. I will do anything for my wife. She is the best in the world.
Now they're retroactively, you cross the border, and a week later they say, oh, you had heroin in your car.
Well, yeah, I get arrested, and they start talking to me, and they're like, what's that magazine we found in your car last weekend? I'm like, oh, man, did I leave something in my car?
Hold on, I want to hear who's doing this. Are the locals working for Obozo? Coming up, your phone calls on the radiation waves now reaching California and the spiking in radiation levels and the attempt by the media and the government to whitewash it. That's coming up. I want to get our guest back on in the next week for a full hour on the InfoWars Nightly News so he can commercial-free during that segment for 20, 30 minutes, you know, really break everything down. But finishing up with our guest here today, he is a major whistleblower who's all over the news, Ian Garland, as somebody who did nothing, who they set up because he wouldn't basically play along with a Fast and Furious program the ATF was acting like they didn't know about. What are the other points Mr. Garland, you'd like to make for people on record. And I know you're pushing for open investigations of Fast and Furious, but we know what they did. We know the White House ran it. Go ahead.
There's something that just doesn't make sense, you know. I mean, the police chief and the mayor, I mean, how did they not know the guns wouldn't be traced? That's what I can't work out. I mean, maybe any layman's person or maybe someone else might know, but you're talking about police officer, police chief. And I told him, I said, if these turn up in crimes, they will be traced and you'll be in trouble. And they're like, oh, no problem. They're for us. We'll do the background check. I'm like, that's what I can't work out. That's one thing I haven't been able to work out from now.
Well, we know what was going on with this case and many others. Yeah. They were pressuring gun dealers, you name it, as fences or as rat holes. They would get other people to do it. The ATF would turn a blind eye to get the guns down there, and that's the only reason they came in and busted them was because you were exposing it.
Absolutely. There was one gun dealer I was with. We were doing transfers, and we decided not to sell to one person. And the ATF come in and asked about the guy, and I was right there, and we asked, is there a problem? No. Should we not sell any more to this person? Oh, no, he's not prohibited. Sell him what he wants. And they knew he was smuggling too. I mean, good God. I mean, I just couldn't believe this when I read all of this. Like thousands of guns go, something like 3,000 documented firearms go, and that's not counting the so-called private sales by the so-called private collectors, which was legal. I mean, you're talking about tens of thousands of guns.
Did they get upset when you got out of jail early and began to win your case?
Oh, yeah, they're pissed. They really are. You know, sorry about that, but they are pissed. I mean, they don't want me to talk, Alex. I mean, I've lost my house. I don't even have a car. You know, my wife's 300 miles away, you know, having a hard time with things. My family and kids are down there. They're all split up. I mean, I don't have two pennies to rub together at the moment. This is just, you know, I hate to beg or tell you my hard luck story, but this is what they did to me. All my animals are dead. My beautiful 12 and 13-year-old cat are dead. I mean, they were my pride and joy, all my animals, my ducks, my turkeys. They were my pets. We have lost everything. Our beautiful house in Chaparral, that was going to be our retirement. Gone.
Well, let's talk about this. It's terrible how they burned you for being a good guy. Tell us about the Supreme Court ruling on your case, though. That's big.
Yes, I was doing some research, and I came across a case in the Supreme Court now saying about the straw purchase. I said to the ATF all along, I said, sometimes I thought maybe they're buying for the cop. He's not prohibited, so that's not a straw purchase. And they're saying, well, yeah, that is a straw purchase. I'm like, that's rubbish, because if a husband buys a gun for a wife, well, that's a straw purchase. I've had many customers do that. If you follow the case of Garcia versus U.S. in Las Cruces, the ATF agent actually gets up there and says a straw purchase is for someone who buys a gun for someone who can't, not someone who's legally allowed to own one. And that's what's in the Supreme Court right now, that they're going back and forth.
Sure, it's the illegal intent to get somebody a gun who can't get one. I can buy my son a gun. Yeah. I can buy my dad a gun. He can buy me guns. I mean, my dad's given me probably 5 guns over my life.
And in their view, that is a straw purchase, and that's what's going back. Right?
Yeah, they want to make everything illegal, and the Supreme Court better not rule that way. Sir, give out your website one more time. We want to get you back on.
Thank you very much. My website is one word. It's fastandfuriousjusticenow.org. And I really appreciate if anyone would read that and anything they can do for me.
Absolutely, brother. We're going to be talking to you again soon. Thank you. I'm going right to your calls now until the bottom of the hour. Then I'm going to get into all the other news I haven't covered yet. We've got Dr. Busby, the nuclear and chemical physicist, joining us tomorrow over the major university studies and government models predicting that all the major runoff of Fukushima and subsequent meltdowns would begin hitting in early January 2014. We are now here. We are now there, and they are reporting and confirming with the County Health Department Environmental Services that their Geiger counters are showing exactly what citizens, scores of videos in San Francisco and surrounding areas are showing on the coastline. It's supposed to be a 14 on the digital monitor. We have all that broken down. That's the average ambient. It goes to 150, 200, 250, 300, depending on what area of the California coast. Well, we're going to go to Oregon. We're going to go to Seattle, Washington as well. I'm going to send my reporters in the next 48 hours out to San Francisco. They'll spend a day in and around San Francisco gathering data. Then they will go up the coast of California Thursday and Friday checking things. Into Oregon Saturday and Sunday. They will go into Washington State. And then on Monday and Tuesday, they will survey things there in Washington State and up to the Canadian border, and then return back here to Austin, Texas. And the reason I'm saying that is we're planning all this on the fly, and I had Rob do as I was going live here during the intro asking me the schedule. After the show, I will meet with the crew, and I will go over the schedule and what we're going to do. But we're going to have Jakari Jackson, Don Salazar, and we're going to have two of the camera folks, Josh Owens and others, are going to be there. We're going to have live feeds via Skype, live uploads and archived uploads to InfoWarsNews.com, to YouTube. We're going to have them on the nightly news showing what's happening at fish markets, not just in California and in Oregon and in Washington, but also here in Austin. I'm sending crew out tomorrow. We're not going to sit back and let the dinosaur media shut this down and not have this information come out. The local health department admits that they found the exact readings with their digital Geiger counters that citizens are finding. And it's crazy. You're 300 yards away on these videos, going up over the hill, and the radiation's already double what it should be. You go over the hill, it's triple. You walk towards the beach, it's 4 times. Boom, it's 5 times. Boom, it's 6 times. Boom, it's 7 times. I mean, that is just amazing to watch this going on, and it's total silence. Obama said last year it's safe because radiation levels were already going up double. If he said it, he is God. And if you think Obamacare is expensive, you're a racist. And if you don't want to turn your guns in, you're a racist. And if you don't want to ship guns into Mexico to kill people so it can be blamed on you, you're racist. And if you don't like being lied to and being deindustrialized, I was just watching congressional hearings with Harry Reid and Chucky Schumer and other slime bags in the Senate. And they were busy. Oh, record unemployment, record. We're really in a depression. Oh, big government's the answer. They're doing it all on purpose. Cloward and Piven is just one of their strategies. These people are sick scum, okay? And they don't even care that Fukushima was built on a fault line, on a coastline with tsunamis, and is now sinking into the mud. Let's go to your phone calls. Dr. Davis, then Lorraine. Then we're going to go to Billy, Paul, Robin. Okay, Dr. Davis says trained in nuclear warfare, is a Navy LTD com. I'm not sure what that designation means, but we've had those folks on before. So, Dr. Davis, what is your take on all this?
Well, thank you, Alex. Retired as lieutenant commander. I was a dual designated flight surgeon and hyperbaric officer. I was backup flight surgeon for the Blue Angels, worked with SEAL Team 5 out in Coronado, had a lot of tours on nuclear ships. So I had special training in nuclear, biological, and chemical warfare as part of my significant additional training that I had as part of my dual designation status. One of only 26 officers at the time that had ever gone through that extensive amount of training. So some people would consider me an expert. I don't consider myself an expert because, that was not my primary job.
Sure, I understand, but you can certainly speak to it. What do you think's going on here? I mean, certainly this should be a news issue.
Well, of course. And I think one of the things that you've brought up in the past that I haven't heard lately is that every nuclear reactor in the world has a fingerprint. They all have a unique spectrum of alpha particles, beta particles, cesium, yttrium, all the various things.
Very well said. You've got the county saying we don't know if it comes from Fukushima. They knew day one what was going on in the reactor by the different isotopes that were released. That's why they knew that plutonium had been released because of the isotopes, and they knew fission had occurred during that big explosion at the MOX 3 reactor, according to the physicist I had on. Exactly. So when they say they don't know, they're full of it. Go ahead.
Well, it may be that they would be like NIST. When NIST was asked whether any explosives were used in 9/11, they said, we found no evidence of explosives. And then they were asked, did you look? And they said no.
Yes.
So it may be the same kind of, mismanagement, but I doubt it. I think that these people probably know absolutely what's going on. And they're simply not providing the public with this information. And it would be so easy to do. Any mass spec GC equipment at any laboratory worth its salt could determine those fingerprints pretty easily. And it's not difficult to understand where this material is coming from.
Well, sure. I mean, 2.5 years ago when it was first hitting us in high levels, all the universities picked up 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10, 15, 20 times, depending on the isotope. They had a whole list of it. And suddenly the feds came in and they didn't release the info anymore. Well, the feds aren't God. We have a right to know what's hitting our coastline. And we have a right to, know mitigating ways to protect ourselves. Like, you notice government's buying iodine, but not telling the public to do it. Why do you think that is?
I think that they realize that there are certain people that are in a hazardous situation in their employ, and that they want to try and protect those people without having to basically tell the public to protect themselves. I mean, unfortunately, over time, I have listened and learned from you and many others. I do believe that we're under a genocidal operation in this world, which is sad to say. It was probably the most difficult thing for me to come to believe, because it just is hard to imagine. But when you understand the psychopathy of these people and what they're up to, it would make sense as part of the rest of the spectrum of all of the soft kill that they're doing simultaneously to us as a population, whether it's chemtrails, GMOs, or fluoride, or all these other things. Why not? Why not provide radiation? I mean, why not just one more, chip in the gun? I mean,
well, that's it. I mean, history's full of the psychopathy that you talk about, or meaning the type of criminal sick mind where they act the same. That's why criminologists are able to catch bad guys, is because these people are types. It's like good guys do certain things, bad guys do certain things. There's different types of good guys, there's different types of bad guys. They know how to assess things. And I'm getting chills when I say this, really bad ones, folks, because what you just said is so true. If you look at the mindset of these globalists, they literally fit the MO of demons, literal demons. Psychopathy is among the most difficult disorders to spot. The psychopath can appear normal, even charming. Underneath, they lack conscious empathy, making them manipulative, volatile, and often, but by no means always criminal. They are an object of popular fascination and clinical anguish. And psychopathy is largely impervious to treatment. It is important to note that the vast majority of people with antisocial tendencies are not psychopaths. No, they're sociopaths, or they have personality disorders. But when you get into really dark psychopaths, they describe it, and I've interviewed top psychiatrists, that famous lady, I forget her name, who's the one that's interviewed all the famous killers. For whatever reason, they talk to her. They're totally depressed. And like in hell with nightmares. And imagine demons attacking them. This is what you don't hear in the news, but this is in the deep criminology. Until they murder innocent people or do bad things, then it's like white light, and they're so happy when they're doing bad things and hurting people. So we see people lined up being shot by Nazis as horrible, but to the psychos doing it, it was beautiful. Hitler would go to the front when they attacked Poland and stay up for 3 days on amphetamines to watch through telescopes Stuka bombers burning and people jumping out of buildings. And he would get dangerously close up to the front lines because he loved World War I. He won the Congressional Medal of Honor, the German type, first class. The Iron Cross first class is their Congressional Medal of Honor. I mean, he was a, quote, war hero, because we all know in war, most people do it because of family, because of honor, because of history, because of instinct to protect, because they want to be real men. But that minority are, in the military, probably 6-7% are psychopaths who think it's beautiful to torture and kill. Anything else, Doctor?
Well, the one thing that I would add is that, and you've brought this up since you started your broadcast, and that is this DNA sampling that occurs at birth. And we now know that psychopaths are wired differently. Their brains are actually different than normal people.
It's genetic, and they can identify it. You know what? I'm going to skip this network break. This is too important. Too important. The only one I'm doing this week. I'm skipping too many of these. Go ahead and make your point. You're absolutely right.
I believe that they are self-selecting at birth. They're identifying people that are psychopaths. They follow them. They certainly have advanced technology, as you've talked about, and they would make overtures to these people at the appropriate times in their life to bring them in and to make them their minions, whether they want to make them part of an MK Ultra type of mind control program or put them in various positions of authority and move them up the ladder quickly, place them in corporations, place them in military.
Oh, no, we know they do that. For 41 years, they've been secretly worldwide declassified 8 years ago via lawsuits that I helped initiate in Minnesota and Texas. I'm not bragging. A nurse 15, 16 years ago gave me secret documents out of an Army base. No, it was an Air Force base in San Antonio. And when I called the health department, they flipped out. But they take blood at birth, not for a blood test. That's all a lie. It's then put in global databases. And indeed, sir, they're doing that and beyond. They've had cases now where someone goes in to have a genetic gene therapy, and they go, sorry, the blood taken at birth from you, in a case in San Francisco many years ago, was a famous case 4 years ago that came out, that this woman had been born 30-something years ago, and they said, you've got to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars for the treatment. We took your blood and put a patent in on your protein DNA structure, and now you have to pay us. So there's no doubt, sir, you're absolutely right. They have built a legion of doom with psychological tests and then DNA testing. They are building an army of Satanists, an army of devil worshippers, an army of psychopaths, an army of evil. How do you counter something like that? And then they're going to have robots and drones that'll follow orders, and then the psychopaths are going to be dealt with as well. I mean, how do you face something like that?
Well, I think that, you being a student of history, you will know that the one key weakness of every tyranny, and they all follow, as you say, an archetype. They all follow the same basic path. The one thing that a tyrant cannot resist is to centralize his power, because that allows him to completely dominate. He doesn't share power. He centralizes it. But that is the key weakness of any tyranny. That's why they always collapse, because the more dominating they become, the more powerful, the more centralized the control, the more easily it is broken, it is tapped into, because there will always be patriots. There will be people that will ultimately wake up and they will realize, just like the people that tried to kill Hitler and assassinate him. I
was about to raise Operation Valkyrie, where they use the centralized system. We're on the same page. They used the centralized system of martial law against him, and it almost worked. And that's why tyrants get overthrown, is they always build the system that makes them unstable themselves. And even if it's patriots that overthrow them, other would-be tyrants overthrow them, things then degenerate, and then patriots finally get a shot at things.
Well, that's where our edge is. As you said, we have the moral high ground, and we have God on our side. We have the tools to be able to win this battle. Unfortunately, it's going to have to get worse, in my opinion, before it gets better. But it's a battle that will be won. It's always been won in history. These guys just have more complex technology. That's all. They don't have any different mindset.
And they have a will to take power when the average person doesn't want to run people's lives. The average person is confident and happy and secure and a loner.
That's right. But these guys, they insist on having total domination, like I said, but that is their fundamental weakness. And that's what always brings them down. That's what's going to bring this globalist cycle of tyranny. I just hope, Alex, I hope that this time, when this cycle runs its course, that we will simply not go back and replace this tyranny with another, which we've done time and time again.
And we may not make it through another cycle because we've got such powerful weapons now. I mean, we can't let elites go crazy and marry their horses and dress up like werewolves and murder children at Roman feast like Nero. I mean, we cannot put up with Aztecs chopping hearts out and Druids sacrificing children. Psychopaths always tend to get control in society, and then they always demand total control. And it's a fact of the web they weave. Nico, one of our producers, was saying, if you ever want to go public with who you are and send us your info, you could be a guest sometime. You sound like a smart fella, and so we're going to get your info, Dr. Davis, if you want to be a guest sometime on the show, and send us your info. God bless you.
I'd be glad to. Thank you.
You bet. Very interesting, smart guy. And that's what's so crazy. When you talk to somebody who knows what they're talking about, and you know what they know, and you know, we need somebody who's well-spoken and calm like he is. I start hearing this stuff and I know it. I start getting chills. I start getting upset because I'm not a psychopath, folks. I'm red-blooded. I love men, women, and children. I love progress. I love justice. And I hate these psychopaths. I want to crush them. And it's so horrible to see them run our whole society, and they don't even care if reactors are melting down, and they're lying to everybody, and everything's going to hell in a handbasket, and they run our culture, and they're breaking up our families, and they're turning men into little demons and women into Jezebel, arrogant people. I mean, it's just all the numbers are there. Not just what we see, the numbers. We're falling apart, and I don't like it. I was thinking about how I'm going to go to my uncle's funeral tomorrow in East Texas, and how my dad's great uncle, Uncle Normie's what they called him. It was Earl Simmons, a big combat vet, World War II, whole 9 yards, great guy out in East Texas. And I was thinking about my grandfather, Jerry Jones, and I was thinking about just in that plot, I think he bought like 14 of them. You walk by, and it's like every one of these people was like basically a war hero. Every one of them was a great guy in life. So cool, so nice, so smart. So many of them were like in black operations, fighting communists. And I'm just sitting there looking. Now my uncle shot down 6 times in Vietnam, fighting with the Montagnards. His main job was because they took the best helicopter pilots and had him mainly deliver special forces. Of course, we never knew any of that till we dug into his Army trunk when he was at work one time. Me and my cousin, he was so sweet, so smart, so good, so funny. Worked in Guatemala after that and other places, and became a big Christian and got out of the system and was just a humble person that, worked as a beekeeper and as a delivery truck driver and stuff like that. And he's just dead. Boom, gone like that. The last person on earth I thought would have be gone from us at 68. And I just look back on all these honorable men that are just lined up, and my grandmother and others that were great people. She was such a great lady as well. All dead, my ancestors there. And I think, what would they think about what the world's turning into today? And, my uncle, William Forrest Hammond, we're going to go to break and come back with your calls. Everything priming me, my experiences growing up, seeing the police deal drugs, having family that was involved with the John Birch Society, being aware of how things worked. As I grew up, that's why I was on air by the time I was 21, almost 22. And then my uncle was that critical person there that really had the inside knowledge and who told me how stuff really worked. Just the 10 times or so, I'd go spend a week with him and my cousins at summer, or when he got injured down in Guatemala and got sent back up here to the hospital. He lived with us for a few months when I was, I think I was about 9 years old. And he was a big influence on me. And I want to be an influence on other people. I want to beat the tyrants. I want to be a good person. I want to go to space. I want humanity to be successful. I don't want a bunch of narcissistic, lying scum that runs our society, all these gangsters and thugs and con artists and scammers that just infest everything and that have accentuated a culture of decadence, show that there's a criminal culture and no one resists them. No one cares to even lift a hand against them. And so they've just have been absolutely empowered to have the fake moral high ground. Look at Al Gore with all his global warming BS. You've got serious issues with our atmosphere from nuclear testing, serious problems with the biosphere. There is major weather modification. It's called geoengineering. On purpose, they're messing with it very destructively. Oh, no, none of that matters. Just pay money for carbon that's at record low in our atmosphere. Record low carbon dioxide in the history of the world. It's like, thank God we're putting carbon out because that may actually boost it. That's what the real studies show. Versus their carbon tax where they have the moral high ground and take over our society while ignoring thousands of real environmental issues. It's so frustrating as a culture to see this happening and to see how weak I am compared to the generation before me and how weak they were compared to the generation before that. And I'm not romanticizing these people. You couldn't have this level of tyranny here because old-timers would not put up with it. And it's just, where are the men? Hunger strikes going on over the fluoridation of the water that Harvard even admits is lowering IQ in children at least 10 points and giving them brain damage. The American Dental Association, American Medical Association, due to 90+% of all EPA and FDA scientists, toxicologists, and doctors signing forms in 2001 and then a couple years ago again, saying you need an internal government petition to take this out. See, the average government person is not even bad, folks. They're compartmentalized. They're good. In fact, it's the government, EPA, FDA people, I can't believe I'm saying this, but it's true, are the #1 ones trying to get it out, okay? The government's not full of criminals. It's criminals at the top that everybody compartmentalized. We're going to go to Leanne in a moment. But Laureen in California, you're on the air. Go ahead.
I have a feeling that the reason why everyone's hushed up about this is I was listening to these interviews by a Japanese scientist, Yoichi Shimatsu, over in Japan, that's been reporting weekly on the Rents.com news network. They've been doing updates every week for, I guess, since the whole Fukushima thing happened. And one more earthquake, they said that Japan is as good as gone, and that you might as well evacuate all of California and the western United States. And you know that's not going to happen.
Sure, sure. That was David Suzuki, the physicist, who said that about a month ago. And I have followed the reportage over there on Fukushima. It's been excellent. Anything else?
Well, the one thing that I'm concerned about, I've got a couple of points, is, I'm up in Santa Rosa, California, about 60 miles north of San Francisco. And we are not being told anything. And same thing, I try and, post readings to Facebook. I try and tell people, and they just kind of look at me like, huh? What are you talking about?
Well, that's because they're in a trance. Don't feel sorry. Don't be mad at them. Feel sorry for them, because they literally are victims of mind control. You've got to break through that to them. Go ahead.
Oh, I know, and we're fighting we're one of the last cities that doesn't have fluoride in our water, and we're fighting it, so we don't want any more people put to sleep and poisoned. But anyway, down, where the Mavericks surf point is, down by San Mateo, California. They always have the big surf contest every year. There was a guy that posted on the Rents radio, I guess it's a radio show too, but about 5 feet off the ground, he was getting readings about Christmas Eve of 156 CPMs. And then he went back 4 days later and held I think, what did he use? He used an Inspector Plus Geiger counter 2 inches off the sand and got 412 CPMs.
Yeah, I know. It's incredible. And 400 would be like, what, 10, 15? No, like 20 times the regular levels. If 14's normal, what would 400 be? Thank you for the call. I appreciate your call. Let's talk to Billy in California. Billy, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Hey, Alex. Thanks for covering this. I think it's right now one of the biggest threats to the world right now is the disaster and the fallout from Fukushima.
But it's also psychologically, though, shows how much mind control we're under and how controlled the mainstream media is, that the San Francisco Health Department admits 5 times the radiation level and says it's no big deal. Go ahead.
Absolutely. There is a video, and there's been videos out on YouTube. There's one in Huntington Beach where I live. I live in Huntington Beach, California. It's in Southern California, pretty close to the power plant in San Onofre. But a video that kelp radiation testing in Huntington Beach, and it's spiking over 100. This was last year. Somebody is out there testing. So even in Huntington Beach in Southern California, there's huge fallout. I haven't surfed for a year, and if you're not taking the nascent iodine and you live down here, you're crazy.
Well, that's the issue, is that I was checking with medical doctors and others about giving my children the ThyroSafe, and they said you can't do that really long term. It's good if it's really high level, like it is coming in now, the next heavier waves, and that's why we sell the ThyroSafe at InfoWarsStore.com and InfoWarsLife.com. I mean, it's better than nothing, but people need the true nascent so that it's more soothing to the body, not as toxic, not as raw, and it's a win-win. Then you fund our operation as well, but everybody on the West Coast particularly needs to be on some form of iodine. Check with your physician. I'm not going to tell you what to do, even though this is a no-brainer in the FDA and everybody says, people should be on iodine. It's just, this is something people need to look into. The feds are getting it. The feds are on it. The feds are on it in the West Coast. The feds know what's going on, and they don't want the public to know because they don't want to create a panic. Well, in the old days in Europe, they did with Chernobyl. Even the old Soviet Union didn't cover it up like this. Anything else, sir?
Yeah, I've been on it for 2 months. I mean, it was a no-brainer for me. I was an 8-year veteran in the Navy, and they taught us the benefits of iodine. I mean, it can purify water in a fetid stream. It can save your life, and I've been on it since you put it out. I've been a surfer, too, and like I said, I haven't been surfing for a year, and these guys are crazy. I can't believe they're out there surfing in that water when 98% of the ocean floor now is full of dead creatures, up from 1% before Fukushima.
I forgot that headline. Areas of Japan and the West Coast have 90% dead. Guys, type in 90%. I think it's 90%. That's 98% of Pacific floor dead. Show that article and source from last week. Well said, sir. God bless you. We're going to go back to more calls after Leanne McAdoo's report. We're going to talk to Paul and Robin and then Drew and others that are patiently holding. There it is. Study. Dead sea creatures cover 98% of ocean floor off California coast, up from 1% before Fukushima, and that's from naturalnews.com. And if you scroll down at the bottom of the article, it'll have the source. I want to give people the source of that. I mean, I believe it. It's a very reputable site, but I want to give people the source. That's PNAS and Newswatch, and go to PNAS. I believe that's a government organization or university. I forget exactly, but the point is that this is some pretty wild stuff. Deep ocean communities impacted by changing climate over 24-year and abysmal Northeast Pacific Ocean. And then it goes, they're saying it's climate, it's the radiation. But let's now shift gears out of radiation for a moment. And the story that's on Infowars.com, Fukushima's radioactive second wave hitting California. Local officials with the health department in San Francisco say a 500% increase in radiation is of no concern, and they don't know where to find out where it came from, even though even somebody like me who isn't a physicist knows they can test the isotopes, and they can test the breakdown isotopes, and they can tell exactly where it came from because there's a listing of the isotopes that came out of Fukushima, as that the former naval commander earlier was saying. That's what all the physicists have said here. They know fission occurred there, Dr. Busby said, and 3 months after he was on, they admitted there was explosions. Not full atomic explosions, but fission. That was not just hydrogen explosions when those things blew 3,000 feet in the air. Now, Leanne McAdoo is in downtown Austin reporting for InfoWars Nightly News and the radio show today, live at 1:41 Central. And she came across this weekend folks down there with Fluoride-Free Austin and others, and they're doing a hunger strike. I think they're into day 8 or 9 right now, to draw attention to the fact that we've had medical doctors, scientists, top toxicologists, top professors like Dr. Conant come to the city council, and then they turn their backs and laugh at him, even though Harvard study confirms fluoride reduces children's IQ. That's out of Reuters. Okay, so cancer, reduced IQs, and you go and say, get it out of my water, and the disgusting criminal city council, some of them are starting to listen, but those that are against it are criminal. They're forcibly medicating us with toxic poison. They literally will not respond. So these people are heroes. Leanne McAdoo out there freezing in the global warming. Need to pay more carbon taxes to Al Gore. How are you doing out there in the record heat wave? Thanks.
I am freezing my butt off. My lips can barely move, but I can't complain because I've got a nice hot meal and a warm bed to go home to. These guys have been out here for 8 days. It's 20 degrees here today. It's going to be even colder tomorrow. And these guys are heroes. They're standing up to say it's enough is enough. Why are you putting hydrofluorosilicic acid in our drinking water? So I'm standing here in front of Austin City Hall. It's a very busy intersection here in downtown Austin. Not a lot of foot traffic, but these guys are definitely making a big impact with their sign. They are on, and these guys actually aren't with Fluoride Free Austin. They are with Austin Fluoride Hunger Strike. So that's their Facebook page. You can find Austin Fluoride Hunger Strike. That's also the change.org petition.
By the way, we could change history right now if 50 more people came and joined them and spent a day with them every day, Leanne. We should send you out there every day for an update. And we should tomorrow, guys, find a 20-minute opening sometime in the show. We should send Leanne down there again tomorrow and tell folks to rally down there against fluoride. What's the time that's open? 11:30 tomorrow, 11:30 Central, 30 minutes into the transmission? Because I just had the idea. Let's build it all week until Friday, and let's try to get 1,000 people down there Friday. Folks, you want the fluoride out. You want to stop paying $1 million a year or more for toxic Chinese toxic waste to be dumped in our water. It's not just hydrofluorosilicic acid. It's time to let the crooks that are in there know that we are standing strong. I want to see everybody go down there and support these guys, help them hand out their flyers, even if it's 10 of you, folks. I want people to go down there in front of City Council, down off 2nd Street, down by Colorado right now. And then tomorrow, 11:30, come down and meet these great patriots and Leanne McAdoo. 11:30 tomorrow, we'll go live down there. I want to see everybody and give folks the exact corner you're at, Leanne, and then we'll talk to the fluoride hunger strike folks.
We are right at Cesar Chavez and Lavaca. So we'll be out here, Cesar Chavez and Lavaca, at 11:30 a.m. tomorrow and on till Friday. I want everyone who can hear my voice, come out here. You've got to let the city of Austin know that we're quite aware that you are slow killing us with poison in the tap water. And the more people we can get out here, they're going to have to report this. No media has come here to report on this. It's just us. We're the only ones out here. And these cars, they're not just going to hunger strike until Friday. They're planning on doing this until the 23rd of January, when Austin City Hall, they're going to have their first meeting. And they're going to be on hunger strike, God willing, until the 23rd. And hope that we can get a resolution or get something. But basically, so you guys are just out here wanting to draw attention to the fact that they are poisoning our tap water, and to just get people to sign this petition at change.org.
Give us their names.
This is Jason and Nicholas. So how do you guys feel? There's all these people driving by. They're looking at the sign, you know, and some of them are kind of looking like, what are they talking about? These guys are crazy to be starving themselves. How does it make you feel knowing that you're doing this for them?
I mean, it definitely feels good regardless of the reaction that we receive, because we know deep down that it is the right thing to do. And we are just hoping that just through awareness that more people join our side.
But a lot of people are supporting them. I saw a city truck honk in support. I mean, what ratio of support are they getting? I know most people are zombies and say nothing, but what ratio of support?
What would you say is the ratio of support of people? Do you have people really kind of showing you they're on board with this?
Yeah, I'd say it's about 5 to 1, positive to negative. We've had a really good turnout. We've had people bring us out water, tea from very nice people. Thank you. Hot cocoa, coffee. It's really been nice, the support we've gotten.
And so you were actually speaking with the city of Austin prior to going on this hunger strike. What sort of things were they saying to you when you asked them why were they actively putting hydrofluorosilicic acid in the water?
Well, they've been presented for 5 years, presentations at city council meetings and special hearings on the topic. So they're well aware of all the information. They have just failed to act. We really just gave them the press release that we were going to be out here and just made sure we had good communication with the police and City Hall to let them know of our intentions and be respectful in that matter. But really, we haven't had any conversation with them whatsoever. They haven't been responsive. We're in their front yard and they act like we're not here.
And so what's been their reaction here? It's day 8. You are out here in their front yard. Now what are they saying to you that you're on this hunger strike?
They're still pretty silent about it. We've actually been invited to participate in an international teleconference, and so we went ahead and extended the invitation to them to sit in next Sunday with us.
And that's an international teleconference for anti-fluoridization in the water?
Correct. It's with Fluoride Action Network.
And by the way, I want to say something to all the audience out there and repeat it to these guys. The reason they try to hold the line is we're defluoridating all over Europe, all over Canada, all over the U.S. States are trying to come down with state laws to make you do it. We're going to win on GMOs, on fluoride, on radiation, on everything. The sane people that are the opposite of psychopaths, we care. We want a future for humanity. We are going to take control of the future for liberty and free will. And these people are literal Paul Reveres. And so I want folks to come down and support them today and 11:30 tomorrow. tomorrow, there better be 200 or 300 people down there with Leanne McAdoo because I want folks, I want to make a big issue out of this, and I want to see even more people next week at City Council. And this is an example for all over the country, but notice now, they're getting on radio shows, teleconferences, in the media. This is getting out in the alternative media that is the real media. Just like the radiation waves hitting California and the West Coast. No one's reporting it but us. Now it's national news thanks to DrudgeReport.com. We are the real media. We are the folks that want freedom. Get their take on the march against fluoride.
So what is your take on the march against fluoride? Do you think we're doing enough here in Austin? And globally?
I feel that there definitely has been a more awareness been brought, and we do appreciate the efforts that everyone has made before us, and it has definitely helped us be informed as well. But the process in general is very slow, and people are still drinking this water daily, bathing in this water, and it's still in most store-bought goods. And we feel that slowness is causing us harm, and it needs to be done immediately, and this is the perfect time. It's a brand new year, New Year's resolution.
Well, I want to explain something here. 5-to-1 support, folks. Okay, now, we're the majority. We pay the taxes. The little punks, the authoritarian eugenicists, that's what they are. The Austin City Council is a very high-level UN group of scum. They need to get on notice with lawsuits and a lot more. If you live next door to them, go over and tell them you want the fluoride out. We have to go through hell with filters not to drink this poison because of these arrogant jackasses that know full. And I happen to know the mayor and others filter their water. I happen to know folks that know them. They know what they're doing, and they're scum. And so get their take on that 5-to-1 support. Why is the water still, why are they still doing it?
So why do you think there's still fluoride in the water? I know one of the biggest groups here that's trying to get a fluoride-free Austin, their first thing they're really just trying to drive is just get warning labels put on the water, but that's not going far enough, is it?
No, even on their website on Austin, the government's website of the city of Austin, they warn against children under the age of 2 drinking too much fluoride because it will cause fluorosis in children, and the CDC knew this. They gave a leeway of 10% of children coming down with fluorosis, and that was acceptable. That is unacceptable.
Well, it's designed to brain damage them. Great job, guys. 11:30 tomorrow. We'll check in with all of you because we're so simple-minded and so nice that they wouldn't do that to me. That's what they're doing. So if you want to get out of your zombiosis and get angry, I don't care where you are. You ought to start hunger strikes everywhere. These guys are out there in the freezing cold. It was like 27 degrees when I left the house this morning. That's cold for Texas, especially Austin. Everybody needs to get out there tomorrow, 11:30 a.m. if you're listening in Central Texas, and just spend an hour. Spend your lunch with them to show the pigs. That's what they are, the bloated insider, crony, narcissist, psychopath scumbags that have had all the scientists and medical doctors and everybody come tell them, and they won't take it out, even though it's very unpopular in Austin and every other city. Because if we ever start having victories against this, we'll learn we have power and we'll have victories on everything. They don't ever want us to learn that. Leanne, give people that call to action.
Well, I'm going to be out here every day the rest of this week at Cesar Chavez and Lavaca. If you care about yourself, your family, your kids, and you know that they are slow killing you with this hydrofluoric acid, and we're ready for it to be out of our drinking water, come show your support for these guys. Share your lunch break with them. Show your support by foregoing a lunch and sit out here with these guys. They're going to be out here till the 23rd. And please tell people where they can go to find more information and to sign that petition.
We have a Facebook page under the name of Austin Fluoride Hunger Strike, and there you can find the petition through change.org. If you need to Google it, Google change.org, Austin City Council, artificial fluoridation.
And every time you sign that petition, everyone at the City Council is going to get a blast. Every time they're going to get an email blast that says, we're on to you.
Look, if you see that mayor at dinner or you see that mayor in a grocery store, you go over and get in his face. We put up with enough. Enough. You're hitting me with chemical weapons, and I'm sick of it. All right, God bless you, Leanne. Good job.
Thank you.
I mean, folks, live coverage tomorrow, 11:30. Be down there, folks. I mean, you should take it personal, okay? These dirtbags know what they're doing. They are assaulting us, and we sit here and take it. Oh, well, you're the mayor. You're the scumbag Agenda 21 government. We'll do whatever we want. The Harvard studies, all of it. We're right. You're wrong. Take it out. Excuse me. I'm getting really mad. Paul, we're going to do a little bit of overdrive and go to Robin and everybody else. Paul, you're on the air. Thanks for holding. You're calling in from California, getting hit by the radiation waves. Go ahead.
That's correct. Yeah, I called in earlier, but my phone decided to drop on me when I was starting to explain the physicists I spoke to when Fukushima first went off, and they weren't too concerned about it, but recently spoke to them again, and they're like, yeah, don't go on the beach, and don't go in the water, and don't eat the fish. And I asked them why, and they said, well, because, you know, the radiation's pretty high now. So this is people who are extremely smart and know what's going on.
And again, it's killing the fish and starfish because they eat, and it bioaccumulates and builds up.
Exactly. And, you know, like I was saying, these people are extremely smart, and they're like, well-known in their fields for what they do. So they're coming from reputable people. It's like, yeah, don't eat the fish out here, and don't eat the sushi, which my wife and I have quit the moment we heard about Fukushima. So it's just good advice.
Or they need to certify that you can't get it from the Gulf. That's all toxic, nothing compared to radiation. I guess the Atlantic or the South Pacific, I mean, it's the Northern Pacific, folks, is super bad news, and it just keeps getting worse. Thank you so much, sir. We're going to do a little bit of overdrive, talk to Robin and others. Some stations don't carry it. Infowars.com/show for the free audio video feeds. Follow yours truly on Twitter at Real Alex Jones, and we have a Facebook. And get our story about the radiation out to everybody. It's on Infowars.com and DrudgeReport.com. On the right-hand side, that's the easiest place to find it. There's been some new breaking news at Infowars.com. We'll be right back. Go on to your phone calls right now. Let's go ahead and talk to Robin in California, where the radiation's at least 5 times the regular level, and the government says that's not a big deal. So breathe deeply. Robin, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Hi, Alex. I just want to tell you I love your show.
Thank you.
I've been listening to you since 2008 when everything started going downhill. Got unemployed, and anyway, I just want to thank you for talking about all these things. Nobody else does.
Well, absolutely. God bless you. We're just doing our job, following our mission to try to wake up humanity, but thank you.
I do pray for you and your family. Just want to let you know that.
Thank you. We need it.
Also, I do have a question about your Fluoride Shield product. I just bought that, but I've already bought the Survival Shield. Do you take both, or do you just take one or the other?
You need to check with your physician, but it's been developed where it doesn't have a lot of the iodine in the other. So Dr. Group says it can be taken together, but it does have the Shilajit and then 4 other things along with the iodine, so 6. So you may have some detoxing effects taking the 2. So consult your physician. But, I mean, it's all at recommended FDA dosages. So, you know, to each your own. But, I mean, too much of anything could be a problem.
Yeah. Well, anyway, just thank you so much, Alex, for everything you do.
No, ma'am. Thank you for your support. You know, we just try to promote and fund ourselves with things that we use and we think are good. I mean, it's real simple. If I find a fluoride filter that's the best quality and has the best specs, I sell it. And I use it. I mean, if I discover a form of nascent iodine that my advisors say is the best and I have great effects with, I buy it up and promote it. I mean, that's free market. And thank you for your support, Robin. Let's go to Drew in Oregon. Drew, thanks for holding. You're on the air.
Hey, Alex. Thanks for having me on. This is Drew from Double Cross Radio on UCY.TV. And I am also an admin for FukushimaFacts.com. And I'm over here in Southern Oregon, also known as the state of Jefferson. And I've been monitoring the Fukushima situation since March 2011. And got several Geiger counters. And we were looking at about typical background radiation of between 6 and 16 CPM. Now our background radiation is usually around 38 to 42 CPM. And we're starting to see the effects of this contamination making its way up the food chain. If you get on some of these hunter and fisher forums, some of these hunters and fishermen are posting some really weird pictures and videos up there of like salmon and steelhead caught in the Pacific
Absolutely.
Northwest.
I've seen your site. It's excellent. Maybe we should interview you while we're there, but they're going to be moving so quick, they'll have to meet somebody at a certain spot on Highway 1 for 30 minutes to interview you and then move on. But send all your intel to showtips@infowars.com. The photos of the fish. Folks out on the West Coast, take pictures of everything. You are the HUMET. You are the intel. You are the human intelligence. And it's the people, the citizen journalist that still have the instinct to survive and tell the truth that are making the corporate prostitute, state-run Decepticon media report on this. Go ahead.
Yes. And so we're also seeing things like Roosevelt elk with mutated antlers. And, that was an elk that was shot in Oregon. And that wasn't the first time that I'd heard of a report like this. In 2011, I interviewed a worker from Hanford up there in Washington, and he's involved in nuclear waste disposal, and they do routine checkups on those guys. And this guy had reported to me that he had tested positive for having cesium-137 in his body. They had to research it, and it had the Chernobyl fingerprint on it. And they traced.
You know what? I want to get you on as a guest. Get his contact info, guys. I want to go like half the time now, Fukushima, because by the way, the new waves are hitting us, and it's not just Fukushima. They don't care about plants melting down now. They just love it. Just leaking, radiating. Oh, it's fun. And now with the new wave of radiation hitting the West Coast. And on this Monday, the 6th day of January 2014, we have a decision to make as citizens, not just of the United States, but citizens of planet Earth, on whether we're going to let the psychopaths and the control freaks and the nihilists that are running things continue to endanger the entire planet while posing as the planet's savior, trying to tax and control carbon dioxide so they can regulate all human activity, while 91% of nuclear reactors worldwide in a UN study last year are leaking. While troops for 25 years have been using depleted uranium, which they had since the end of World War II, but wouldn't let the military use because it's a death sentence to whoever fires it, because the round catches on fire and you get a heavy dose of the poisonous radioactive garbage. Here's the headline. Fukushima radioactive wave has already hit California. The radiation's up 5-fold the normal background radiation on average. The county health department went out there, and I have the article here in my stack. And when they got there, they found the same levels and admit it, but say they don't know if it's coming from Fukushima. Well, they better find out where it's coming from. It's obviously coming from Fukushima. Fox News reported, along with the Spanish government, in November of last year, that the main waves of radiation from the ongoing leaks were set to arrive in early January. It's now happening. Here's another headline. Health officials, no concern over 500% increase in radiation levels. And there have been a lot of people since March 3 years ago who have been following this. And there was a first initial wave in the air of hot particles and radiation and increased radiation in milk and vegetables that grow on the surface where it bioaccumulates in the fallout. Now the fish, the starfish, are almost all dying. It's all over the news, but not why they're dying. The sea lions are dying. The currents come right off Fukushima, right around, up around North America, all the way up to Alaska. Whether you live in Alaska, Canada, the west coast of the U.S., or northern Mexico, you're getting hammered by an ongoing 5-reactor meltdown where they're just spraying ocean water on it in that wrecked site that runs right into the ocean. And it is getting incredibly serious. This is, I got to say, 100 times worse. Some of this stuff has, billion-year half-lives or more. They had a plutonium reactor that blew sky high. Plutonium. We're not talking about just uranium. This is incredible. And so we as a culture and a society need to get these articles from Infowars.com. We'll click on it and show you the top right-hand corner of DrudgeReport.com. We need to get this article, our article, that links to the local newspaper where they interview the head of the health department, the head of the environmental section of the health department, going, oh, yeah, it is 5 times exactly what citizen YouTube videos are showing. 5 times the regular level. from a 14 up to 150 and on up. Some people are getting 400s. And folks, you stay around that for months, you're talking serious health effects from all the physicists that we've interviewed. Chemical physicist, nuclear physicist. And they're using radiation levels. They're saying this is safe unless you have long-term exposure that are acceptable limits for people that work in nuclear power plants, not children and others with fast-growing cells. This is really bad news. And it's the response of these videos being out for weeks that the radiation had already gone up, but now it's skyrocketing, and no one is even covering this but Infowars.com and DrudgeReport.com and PrisonPlanet.com. There have been a lot of citizen journalists, activist groups, folks out there that have been doing a great job, when it went from 14 to 30 and then 60. Now it's 150, 200, 300, 400. Now the animals are dying. And the establishment, they're not going in the water. So you've got major physicists saying Japan might have to be evacuated. This is a real issue, ladies and gentlemen. The government last week quietly ordered 14 million dosages of potassium iodide. Now, I'm going to go back to your calls and let folks comment on this. Drew, comedic genius, and Rich, that's all we have time for with the calls in this overdrive. But I just want to recap here that the government's not telling you to get iodine. The government's not telling you to protect yourself. There's the headline. Top scientist. Another Fukushima quake would mean U.S. evacuation. Bye-bye, Japan. Award-winning scientist says another 7.0 earthquake hitting Fukushima would mean U.S. evacuations. Bye-bye, Japan. David Suzuki. Remember that a few months ago? And then the head of the Young Turks, who was an MSNBC host, said they were told to not talk about it, but hey, we're not sending reporters over there because it's a death sentence. I mean, this is a big deal, ladies and gentlemen. And you got 5 of the 6 reactors that blew up just sinking down into a swamp now on the edge of the ocean, with homeless people being paid below minimum wage, removing the rods. They touch one rod, they catch on fire and explode. It's a time bomb. And it should be the #1 issue. No, it's Al-Qaeda. We got to have armored vehicles and checkpoints and take your rights because of Al-Qaeda. We've got to spy on Congress because they might be with Al-Qaeda. Peter King said that. Trust no one and arrest everyone but me. It turns out him and John McCain are the 2 literally funding Al-Qaeda in Syria and other areas that go over there and meet with them. And there's articles out about that today. The biggest terrorism scaremonger are themselves the ones promoting terrorism. We're going into a worldwide depression. There's GMO spreading. The bees are dying everywhere. Radiation's exploding. And literally, you go to the airport and they act like they're looking for Al-Qaeda when they run the stinking radical Muslims out of Saudi Arabia, who it turns out is publicly bombing Russia right now because Russia won't hand Syria over to them. This is disgusting. Peter King is an absolute dirtbag. When is it enough of these con artists and their appeal to authority because he's a big pumpkin-headed congressman that we better spy on Congress and have no rights and get rid of everything? That's the illegitimate government trying to spy on the elected government. And as much as I don't like the crooks in Congress, they're the government. This is a coup d'etat in our face, and I've had enough. We've got breaking. Explosions, fire near Time Life building. Oh, I hope it's just a gas main or something. I hope that they don't stage some false flag. Let me tell you, they know this is breaking at Drudge. I'm serious. They don't want this coming out because they don't want you. They want to keep building new reactors, let them keep melting down. They don't want this story breaking now, getting out. You've got to make sure it gets out. Let's go back to Drew. Drew, tell folks about your excellent site again. I want to get you on as a guest, but and all the stuff you've been collating there, and any other key info. Go ahead.
Yeah, the website for more information is fukushimafacts.com, and I'm an admin on there, as well as my producer, Jules, at ucy.tv, and she put that site
Okay,
up,
any other tidbits? Because I've followed the site some. Any other key info you want to give people?
Yeah, well, the worst part of this are the effects that I'm seeing around me with people that are close to me. I'm seeing friends and family members getting weird tumors, getting cancers, friend of mine had to have his esophagus and his stomach removed. He lives down here in Southern Oregon. My cousin got a rare bladder cancer, had to have her entire bladder removed, and then they built her a new bladder.
Oh, I know. It's all off the chart. I mean, all the numbers. We were under plague warfare attack. Mm-hmm.
It's real.
Now, for those that don't know, the radioactive particles settle out in the kidneys and the bladder and the lungs, and that's what it hits, just like with the DU and the troops. We'll talk to you soon, Drew. All right, let's talk to Comedic Genius. Go ahead. You're monitoring the radiation from California, our ground zero. Go ahead.
Monterey Bay, one of your favorite places, Alex. I remember the last time I spoke with you, we was all about pointy toes and hands down the pants and man pig and all these other, we're moving on from there. Anyway.
You're talking about when I came out to speak and the city demanded they had police searching everyone to go in and see me?
I had tickets, but I wasn't at that one. That was with the InfoWars team out here.
Yeah.
But anyway, what I wanted to point out, information is what's very important at this point. And you're beeping. What that is my. I don't want to.
We're almost out of time, brother. Go ahead and make your point.
Okay, but anyway, I wanted to suggest this website if you haven't mentioned it already. RadiationNetwork.com.
Yes, it's excellent. I want to get their director on as well. They've got all the folks with the government, the university, and the private radiation monitors showing the levels.
But one other thing about that, you see, like, for example, my instrument is a pancake instrument. It reads 3 times more counts per minute, and we have to calibrate our instrumentation and get listening stations like they're trying to do there, but make sure the information is consistent. Now, where I am here, my normal count per second is around, with the instrument, 3 times normal, what a normal instrument would be, is around 30, and I haven't experienced this escalation that you've talked about, but I've seen the YouTube reports on it. Anyway, you're doing a great job, and I actually run a water policy nonprofit here, too, for many years, but dealing with another...
All right, great job, brother. Great job, Comedic Genius. Rich, take us out. Got 30, 40 seconds. Go ahead.
Hello.
Yes, Rich, go ahead.
Alex?
Yes, from California.
Oh, hi. I'm from Ben Lomond. It's you might say, a suburb of...
Fantastic. We only got 30 seconds.
Santa Cruz. What I wanted to say is you go out in the sun. I noticed this. You go out in the sun, and I've been out in the sun for 30 years. It feels like there's needles sticking in you, and it's quite. What it does is it's painful, but it just for 2 or 3 minutes you get it starts to itch, and it's quite noticeable. And,
there's all sorts of stuff in the atmosphere. The globalists are trying to kill the planet while posing as the savior. Sorry to have to cut you off, brother. We're out of time. Overdrive's over. Back tonight, 7 o'clock Central.